Hello.
Hello.
Oh, Joe's got his audio on. There we go.
There we go.
All right, everybody. Welcome to Hellbent Holler Live. My name is Jesse. This is Joe. We're going to do an audio check. We're not echoing anymore. Yeah, cool echo from What the Flock. Yeah, I know. He had his audio on that. So hope everybody is doing okay today. We got everything going, everything set up. All right, loud and clear, according to the Deuster. Perfect. Welcome to Hellbent Holler Live. My name is Jesse. This is Joe. And if you are new around here, this is a live show we do every Monday. We invite our fans and viewers and everybody to come into the chat. And we basically hang out every Monday and talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. We answer questions. We get into some weird territories. I think Friday we got into the discussion on if we could use gorilla piss as a lure for Sasquatch. So that's always good.
It's not a question of can we. It's a question of when
we. Yes.
When
so
will we?
yeah. So it gets into weird territory sometimes, and we have a lot of fun doing it. We really enjoy doing these live streams. We do them every Monday at 8 p.m. So if you're new, join in the chat and join in the conversation. So we are kicking up. All right, everybody in here. Hello, everybody.
It's the first show of the new year. We did one right before New Year's Eve, and then everybody's talking about the weather. Yeah, weather sucks. The weather sucks.
Yeah, it's going from like freezing to hot.
Like 70.
Yeah, so everybody is pretty much sick everywhere right now. So Joe and I are both battling like sniffles and a cough constantly, but that's okay. I know everybody else is I know Sam Burton said that he was not feeling well today too. So
Sam Burton also says it's raining off and on in North Georgia, raining like cats and dogs in Dover, Tennessee. Deuster's got a thunderstorm going on. So
yeah, so it is all kinds of just terrible crap. We're starting the year off with a crappy weather system, but that's okay. That's okay, because we determine how our year is going to go, not the weather. So that is fine. So Appalachian Tales of Terror. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. So
James Vargas says, hit that like button like you were smacking a bad dog man on the snout. Correct. Yes. Hit that like button. Make sure you hit that before you head out. And Yeah, hit that like so that we can go up and make sure that everybody sees our live streams and sees our videos and everything of the like. So Appalachian Tales of Terror with Jimmy Blanton says, I have all kinds of stuff to share with you guys. Do you have an email? Yes, we do. So I'm going to throw that up there. That's going to be scrolling across the bottom during the entire show. So you'll know how you can get in touch with us if you have a question or if you have something you want to share with us. You can always email us down below, hellbitholler@gmail.com. We also have our snail mail address. It's P.O. Box 777, Pelzer, South Carolina, 29669. You can always send a snail mail there and get in touch with me on Instagram at hellbitjessie. So you can always do that.
Red Wolf mentioned your doll.
My doll, yes. So this is a Morticia doll. I think I posted something a while back about me looking like Morticia, and our very good friend and pretty much a member of the Hellbent Holler family at this point, Dewey Edwards with Cryptid and Critters Paranormal, and he's also Ghost Paranormal. He made this for me and sent it to me. It is my birthday Christmas present, but it is a Morticia doll that he actually went and put blue hair on.
Which you can see the little blue streaks there.
Yes. And the best part about it, though, is it's not just any doll. Dewey makes all of these really cool ghost hunting tools and equipment.
Really cool.
Like really
hunting
cool.
stuff,
And he makes them from scratch, and he is pretty much a genius. We call him the Q-ster sometimes because he's basically the Q to our James Bond.
If you are on Facebook, go to Cryptid and Critters Paranormal.
Join up with the group. He's always
constantly posting like
there.
cool stuff. He's working on a
Tesla
coil, portable Tesla coil to take him to the woods. He's got a lot of sensor tech that he's working on. He has built the granddaddy of all EM pumps that he's working on. So yeah, he's got a lot of cool stuff going on over there.
Yes. So what's really cool about this little doll here is it is a doll that a spirit or an entity can actually interact with. So when a spirit or entity makes contact with it, a little alarm goes off. So we're going to show you kind of how that works by touching it. Joe's going to do it. And so it goes off like that if anything comes in front of it. So it's kind of a entity detection device. So
we're going to have that in front of us for the show tonight.
Yes.
And if anything, we have not set it off. We've had it in here for a while as we've been going through all of our stuff. We had it last week, but we had some microphone difficulties right before we went live, and in the rush to get the show started, we left it in the other room. So
yeah.
So thank you for that, Dewey. That is amazing.
Yes. Thank you very much for that. Well done indeed. Well done indeed. All righty. So we're going to go through the chat and we can get started on the show tonight. So Pyromedic says, I saw Alex Petikov use a combo of primate urine and human female scent. Maybe he strains it through the tampons. So Alex was using pheromone chips. They're Sasquatch pheromone chips. We actually got the exact same chips from that company, and we use them in our werewolf experiments. When we went to the LBL this last time, we actually placed those Sasquatch pheromone chips alongside wolf lore for our werewolf experiments episode. We did that on episode 1, I believe it was, and then we talked about it in episode 2 of the werewolf experiments. So we got those. We have a few left of those, but the company apparently stopped making those. I don't know why. I guess there wasn't a huge market for
Sasquatch pheromone chips.
Sasquatch pheromone chips. Who knew?
But I think Alex has got a few left. We've got a few left. I'm sure there's a few others floating around out there in the wild. But I actually reached out to the company to see if they could do a small batch for us, but I haven't heard anything back as of yet. So I don't know if it's maybe because they just don't want anything to do with this market, or maybe it's just because of the holidays, but we'll see. And
I don't know if you saw on Expedition, was it Expedition Bigfoot? Yeah. So on Expedition Bigfoot on the latest season, they used a drone to actually spread the Sasquatch pheromone, which is a combination of primate and human female scent. They used that to actually spread that around in one of those episodes. Alexander Petikov and Eli Watson were actually the first ones to do that.
Yeah, they kind of
they
came up with that, so.
Definitely that show definitely likes to grab a few things from other researchers and not really acknowledge that. So, but Alexander and Eli Watson were actually the first ones to do that deployment of pheromones from a drone. So Alex has been doing this for a while. He's very good at what he does. I'm gonna drop that. Of course, we're all very sniffly today.
Yeah.
Who else do we have? Yeah.
We got quite a few people. Letitia Nunley, hope you're feeling better from your surgery. Hope you're bouncing back all right.
Dolores is here. Barton Nunley.
Martin Groves, Barton, Goshawk, Cowboy Five Rings, Grace, Vicky, Elizabeth Martin, What the Flock, Cowboy Five Rings, Stephen Taylor, Jonestead Farm.
Stephen Taylor, speaking
William
of
Kennedy.
you, Stephen Taylor says, I bought some ghost hunting equipment today.
Oh,
what did you buy, Stephen
What
Taylor?
did you get?
We're always curious about that.
We use, as you know from watching our videos, we'll take stuff that a lot of times is used by traditional ghost hunters, like indoors, and we will either modify it or build our own versions of it, or just sometimes use it stock out in the woods where we find these areas with like crazy activity going on. So the Phasm camera that we use was actually made for ghost hunters, and even though it's made for like indoor use, it's held up really well.
Yeah,
I'm sure we're gonna break it eventually. We're gonna break it eventually.
The Phasm cam's been really nice. It's a full spectrum camera. It has a detachable light that is really amazing. It barely uses any battery, even when we use it all night. But it's a full spectrum camera. It does IR, UV, and the picture is great on that Phasm cam. I'll actually, when we post this video in the description below, I'll actually have a link to it if you guys want to check that camera out. It's the camera we use for all of our night shots. So if you watch any of our past few videos, you'll see it's in that pink. That is a full spectrum camera, and that's a Phasm from Ghost Stop. But I'll put that link in the bottom there if you guys want to check one of those out. I know that Dewey got himself one, and he seems to really like it.
It's a short range, but I mean, we used to carry like a full-size Sony camcorder on night shot mode with us.
Yeah.
It's just, and you'll even see that in some of our videos sometimes, but it's too bulky and cumbersome, especially when we were out this past weekend. We had that freeze last weekend. It did nothing to push any of the vegetation back. So, I mean, we're crawling on hands and knees at some points to kind of get through some of the brush that we're going through, and just like a full-size camera and a full-size tripod, it just doesn't work. Having the backup battery handle, actually we've got two of them now, and the Phasm, it's just so much easier to kind of like move through the brush with. So again, it's short range. It's got a standard action camera microphone on it, so it doesn't pick up everything.
Yeah.
But it's about the best that we can use given the places that we go to.
Yeah, for our purposes, it does really, really, really great for us. So we haven't found anything better. So we're happy with it right now. We're looking at kind of diversifying our camera setup for the night investigations as well. So
Rare Robert has a timely question. Do you think cryptids can slip in and out of dimensions? If you have watched us, you know that we are not, as far as like UFOs go, we are not extraterrestrial type believers. It's either interdimensional, or we had the thing about the diabolical hypothesis, which we're not saying we throw ourselves completely behind that, but it's got some merits to it.
It's definitely something to look into.
And one of the things that we've really been kind of going into is I've been doing a deep dive onto Mac Toney's and his crypto-terrestrial theories, which it's weird. I was familiar with it once before, but I've revisited it, and I'm going, man, a lot of this makes sense. And one of the things I'm thinking of is crypto-terrestrials. He thinks that a lot of the things that are occurring here are from here. Aliens, Sasquatch, ghosts, elves, these are entities that have been on Earth, not from another dimension. They've just been here and they've been able to stay hidden. And one of the things I was thinking of is, are they coming in and out of our dimensions, or are they coming in and out of our perceptions? Are they just here all the time, but we just can't perceive them all the time? And we kind of touched upon this in the last live stream we were doing, that, there's a theory that up until just a few thousand years ago, relatively just yesterday in geological terms, that we couldn't see the color blue. That we developed the ability to see blue, but before that, whatever we were seeing wasn't blue. So that's kind of meaningless in what we're talking about now, but it talks about our visual range and how our visual range doesn't really pick up everything that's out there. So I don't know if these things are slipping in and out of dimensions, or are they able to stay not necessarily cloaked. Cloaking to me kind of means like a temporary kind of hiding of your like senses.
Yeah.
They just might exist most of their time in a manner that we can't see. Scientists have talked about a shadow biosphere that might exist on Earth, where maybe there's life out there that we just don't recognize it as being life. And of course, then they're usually talking about microscopic life. But I'm always just like, what if that shadow biosphere kind of contains multicellular organisms, like creatures, like cryptids, like, you know, and humanoids, like Barton calls them, cryptoterrestrials, whatever. And they've formed on Earth, they've evolved on Earth, however you want to say it. They're here all the time. We just can't see them all the time. We just catch little glimpses of them. So,
and you know, something to think about too is it's maybe not that you just can't see them all the time, but you can't perceive them in a physical manner either, because otherwise, wouldn't people be possibly attacked by something that they can't see or bump into something?
That happens sometimes.
Oh yeah. But,
so I mean, that happens sometimes.
Or would you run into something that you can't see?
Well, I mean, again, if it's, I don't think they're like standing. I mean, they could be standing like right here, but I mean, keep in mind, most of these people are seeing these out in the woods, and you know as well as I do that when we're in the woods and we're in like heavy brush, we move slowly, we move loudly.
Yeah,
it's not like, you know, we're gonna just bumble into something, you know, like, but there's definitely been cases of people being kind of running into these invisible type predators and stuff like that. So just something kind of food for thought. So
Enki says, is your activity still high or has it started to calm down? So the activity around the house has actually calmed down.
Nothing at all going on right now.
Yeah, it's been very calm around the house.
We didn't really even do anything to like combat.
I did do a bit of a cleansing, but I do that anytime we have an incident, and then we have incidents after that. But lately it seems like it's really, really calmed down. We were having a lot of weird stuff happen. Like even when we were doing live streams, we were having things happen around the house, like weird like noises here and over here, cameras going off. But it's been pretty quiet around here lately. It's actually not been bad, so that's good. But out in the woods, we've had a weird uptick of strange things happening. So I'm wondering if, as we continue to pursue that and pursue those leads and continue to go to those areas where we seem like the activity is ramping up, do you think that maybe something will latch onto us and come back to the house again? Because that's happened on multiple occasions.
Or is it here and we're just not, like I was just talking about, we're not perceiving it. It's here.
So we're out, so we're out of the perception.
Yeah. Oh. Martin Groves gave Dewey a plug. Seasons of the Critter new book. Hey, and Dewey is kind enough to put us in the honorable mentions.
Yes, we are in the honorable mention in the back. He has a little thank you to the one and only Helmet Holler back there. So we appreciate that. All right. Okay. Paul M says, hi guys, just caught your LBL show recently. Great job. Subscribe right away. Great channel. Do you think the LBL massacre story has any fact behind it?
Yes.
Yes. But. You go ahead. Yes, but yes. There's a lot of things that, you know, when you have like a paranormal game of telephone, you're going to lose a few things, or a few things are going to get changed. We've been doing a lot of research, and I do mean a lot of research. This is a multi-year process at this point, including us going on the ground in the LBL several times and walking around and checking out the locations in which this event allegedly happened. There's a lot of things that are that we believe are true when it comes to the LBL massacre story. We also believe there's a few things that
have just kind of
have been added to the story
or
changed
altered for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely think that if you were to ask me, was a family killed there around that 82 time frame? Yes.
Are people continuing to go missing? Are people continuing to be killed in the LBL?
Yes.
Is there still a threat in the LBL?
Absolutely yes. Absolutely yes. Beyond a shadow of a doubt. Did it follow the exact Jan Thompson kind of set up storyline? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? We're still in the process of kind of looking through there. I know there's some things that we've found that don't quite line up with that. But I think that the 82 massacre gets a lot of attention, obviously, because that's kind of what put the LBL on the map as far as like this sort of stuff goes. But I think that's the tip of the iceberg as far as what has happened out there and what is happening out there. And like I said, I mean, when you get down to it too, it's weird. The 82 thing gets all the work, like the attention, but I think Martin Gross's account is probably the most important account. It's one of the most important accounts that has happened.
Well, also you have a direct, you have somebody who was directly involved.
First person account as opposed to second and third hand information that
yes.
you get. Someone who has impeccable credibility, who is a first hand witness, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Who, and you know, everybody's seen Martin talk, man. Martin's like, here's the police department I work for. You know, he's an open book as far as stuff like this goes.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like you're watching an interview with somebody who's just, you're seeing their outline and their voice has been altered, and it could be anybody standing there just spinning a tale. Martin's up front about it. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on with the LBL there. It's absolute. The LBL, again, the Skinwalker Ranch gets all the attention now. The spot in Georgia that we're in is just a freak show of activity.
Yeah.
But the LBL there's a lot more going on there other than just Dogman. A lot more going on. So we'll be hopefully getting back in the next foreseeable future, and hopefully we'll be able to shed some new light on some of that stuff. So
following up to that, Kaiju Ninja 1985 says, from what I heard, there's at least a few massacre stories, one involving a cult and another involving a family. The one in 1982 was involving that family. It was 4 individuals who were part of a family that were supposedly killed by a dogman or a set of dogmen. So that's that story, that it was those 4 people who went out there and were actually murdered by that.
And there was a vampire cult.
There was also the vampire
2 young
cult.
ladies that were killed that made it into the news. And then there's other stuff that I don't know whether some of the other stuff we're privy to he wants put out. So I guess we'll dance around that for right now.
There is definitely ongoing activity
out there,
on the peninsula. So, and like we've said before, we will be returning to the LBL in the coming few months or so. We're not very specific on when we go anywhere because we don't want anything to be messed with, or we don't want any kind of interaction with other people very much. So, but we are returning to the LBL, and we have a couple of new spots that we're going to check out, and we're actually going to follow up on a few places that we have been before, namely Station 16, where we found those bones leading up to that station, where we found those underground tunnels.
And then we have a few spots in there that people have reported to us directly, some stuff that's happened. So we will be going to that.
And a couple of those spots, they report to us not just cryptid activity or Bigfoot activity, Dogman activity, anything like that, but we're going to follow up on actual ghost encounters in the woods and in these areas. So we're really going to dive a little deeper into the LBL on this trip and see if we can uncover some new things.
Jonesstead Farm, hello. Did you guys see the report that a human heart was found in a salt brine factory in Tennessee? I saw something about that.
Wonderful.
I also saw that there were 4 human skulls intercepted in a package that were on their way to South Carolina, as a matter of fact, from Mexico. And
I definitely didn't order those. So.
Exactly. But yeah, I briefly saw that, and then I didn't really follow too much into that. So what do they think about that? Did they find the body that the heart came out of, or is it just a solitary heart that they don't know where it came from or anything like that? So
yeah. LA Guide 211 says, when you guys went to the LBL, it definitely looks like a place where those creatures are made, and those abandoned buildings are suspicious. A lot of that's very suspicious. A lot of that's very weird. Going and being on the ground there, we were able to actually piece together a little more of the history of the peninsula, being there, looking at it, putting together a lot of different clues. And I think that in doing that, we've kind of debunked a few things that were part of the common lore when it came to the LBL. And I think we're going to continue to do that and continue to turn some stones and see if we can flesh out the story a little bit.
Yeah. Take 2 Wheels that asked if I got the photo from his neighbor's property that you sent cleaned up. Yeah, I think that was the last thing I checked. I responded to your first one, and I saw the other one right before we went on. what should I use? That he Take Two Wheels has a neighbor who has some weird stuff going on his property. Um, you could use an EMF detector. There's varying qualities of ones out. We have a low frequency EMF detector, and then we have a tri-field meter that has a wider range on it. If you can get a hold of a tri-field, that's like probably the best do-all type instrument of that type, just a regular tri-field meter like you see on every show out there.
Well, as the variation of settings too make it a lot more versatile.
We usually the stuff that we look for is we look with an EMF detector, a tri-field meter, spectrum analyzers. I've got a spectrum analyzer set to a low sweep and then a high sweep. Geiger counters. We've got that infrasonic detector that we have, that infrasound detector but that's mostly for biological stuff. But I guess it could also, I don't know, does a portal give off infrasound? We haven't tested that yet. But yeah,
and that portal thing that we saw, we would not have had time to pull up that equipment.
So, if you can get a hold of an EMF detector, like a decent one, and if you need some suggestions, we've got some firsthand experience with a few of them. So I can definitely do it. I'll check those pictures out when we get out.
Speaking of which, we're talking about the equipment that we use, talking about all the stuff that we use. I know I have a couple of gear videos on our YouTube page, but we don't have anything that we really go into in depth on a lot of our ghost hunting equipment. I think I'm going to do a video on that where we kind of go into that, but I think I'm also going to start updating the website more regularly and maybe include some gear lists and links to where you can purchase the gear that we use. Because a lot of people ask us all the time, what is something I need to get to do this? What are these tools that you use? Where can you get them? So I think we're going to probably update that and do a gear list, and maybe do an essential gear list and then expanded kits and stuff like that, because we do get questions like that all the time. And we are absolutely happy to answer those questions and help anybody out who wants to get involved in paranormal or cryptid research. We're very, very happy to help anybody do that. Matt Keenan says, Jesse and Joe, given enough time as your reputation and investigation style becomes more popular, you might get a television show offer. Would you take it? We've been offered a couple of things.
Actually, Jesse's been offered all sorts of stuff.
All sorts of things.
Some of which is
very strange.
Very strange.
Yeah. So I think I'm definitely open to it. I have spoken to several producers about projects and stuff like that. I'm very, very wary about protecting my reputation as a investigator, and our Hellbent Holler as an entity. I'm very, very protective over that. So anything I did, I would have to make sure that it is in line with what we do, why we do it, and the approach that we take.
And it's not necessarily, because the thing that I always get is people that fancy themselves investigators always just rip on every cryptid related show or paranormal related show. And I'm going, yeah, you know what? It's you do this. So I guess if they did a show to appeal just to this tiny fraction of the population that does this sort of stuff on the regular, well, it's not going to do anything. It's not really going to, it's not going to get renewed.
Appeal to a mass audience.
So with me and I understand that when people take these subjects so seriously, sometimes kind of a flippant, more amusing kind of take on it kind of upsets people. At the end of the day, the more exposure this sort of stuff has, the better, to an extent. You know what I'm saying? There's some stuff that happens that's harmful. I have I'll be honest with you. I think that finding Bigfoot did more harm to the field than Mountain Monsters does. Mountain Monsters is appealing to a whole generation of kids. For those of you that are my age, you remember when In Search Of was out. That's kind of what got a lot of us into it, that are, this Gen Xers. But finding Bigfoot kind of popularized some real bad ideas that have been hard to shake. So it's not necessarily that you want to turn anything down that's entertaining. It's just that stuff that you don't want to get into that is going to cast you in a bad light, that it's going to be hard to shake then. She got an offer to go on to they wanted to do a cryptid themed dating show and asked her to be on it. What was the last thing you got an offer to do?
And I'm like, I've seen half the people in the cryptid community. I don't want to date any of them.
So, and then there was the thing where they were basically
the fitness thing.
They want to tie fitness into the paranormal and to the
Yeah.
cryptid community. And she's like, how do you want to tie fitness into this? And they basically wanted her to be in like doing aerobics, talking about cryptids while she was just bouncing around. So yeah. So with that sort of stuff,
hey, although you know what, we might put that idea in our back pocket. For
yeah, never say no. So
for our future Hellbent Holler stuff.
It eventually something will come along that you'll probably end up doing. So
yeah. Oh goodness gracious.
Goshawk had a pretty good idea. He was like, you guys should do a setup somehow and I'll be able to repeat results like the Skookum cast. That's actually a really good idea. Yeah, you've planted a little seed in my brain here now, buddy. So
that's not a bad idea.
Stephen Taylor said he got an EMF detector, an EVP recorder, a grid light, and a camera with night vision. Stephen, you either mentioned it in the chat or if you want to message me, what camera with night vision did you get? Did you get a big one, a small one? We're looking into smaller, more portable, and to be quite honest, cheaper. Our Sony's like a couple grand. I don't want to break my Sony out there. And sometimes when stuff happens, I need both hands free. So we're really looking at a less expensive, but still good and smaller night vision camera to use out there, along with the full spectrum. But if you've got a suggestion of something that you're using right now, I'd love to hear it. So
here's a compliment. We'll throw that on there. Existers Revitalization says, I have never been more thrilled with two people I absolutely don't know on YouTube than with these two. A round of applause.
Hey, thank you. It's awesome. So
what the flag? Wait, aren't Jesse and Joe exclusive? I assumed you were. We are. Yes. I'm not going on a cryptid dating show. Not happening. Enki says, did you get any more emails warning not to go back to where that light was? No, not yet. We got that email.
And the guy who sent that email might be watching this right now.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We got that email. We read it on the show on Friday. So if you haven't seen that show and you're interested in that story, we read that email, and I don't think he's going to say anything else until we release our next video where we go back out there.
And what's weird is that they was very specific not to mention his name, if that's his real name.
Yeah.
If that's his real name, but he didn't say don't share the email.
Yeah.
So that was he was very, very firm about us not mentioning his name. And that we obviously shared the first email, and not once did he go, hey, I told you this in confidence and all that. Matter of fact, the only reason we shared the first one's because we thought we'd never hear back from him.
Yeah. I reached out to him and I never heard anything.
We emailed several times, and we didn't even, the emails were delivered, it seems like. So we didn't get an undeliverable message or anything. So I don't know at this point. That's just going to have to evolve how it evolves, and we'll see where we go to from there. And if you're watching right now and you'd like to share any more information with us or even talk to us, over the telephone, we're open to it.
And I referred in the last video, the video that I put out where I read his first email. In the intro to that video, I referred to him as M because he did ask that we do not share his name. So we just refer to this individual as M. And so we definitely know that M was the person that sent that second follow-up email, because the name that we received
is the same. It's the same
person. The exact same. So it's the
same person, and he knows where we're going to.
Yeah.
And he made mention of a light screaming, which we haven't experienced that yet, or maybe never. We've heard weird screams up there, and we've seen lights up there, but never the two kind of wedged together.
Yeah.
But he did say that there were figures in that light, and that's a pretty close approximation of what I saw that night. I mean, it's obvious this guy is not pulling our legs. He's clued into something. What his intentions are, or what your intentions are if you're watching this, I don't know. We'll figure it out as we go along. So
everybody's really enjoying this cryptid dating show and the health, like fitness cryptid thing.
Yeah, they got in touch with her and they were like, we have a exciting project for you. It's slowed down since everything is kind of chaos now, but we want to meld fitness and cryptozoology and the paranormal together. So she's just going, how would you do that? Like, and we're brainstorming. And we're going, well, maybe they want you to they show the training, because Jesse goes through like crazy training. Jesse goes through survival school training. She's doing like formalized search and rescue training in the spring.
Medical training.
She's wilderness first aid certified. She's going to get her SAR level 1 like in the spring and all that. So she was thinking maybe that like kind of like, you know, the preparation that goes into this sort of stuff. No, they just want, if anybody my age remembers Aerobicize on Showtime.
Stingray 1975 actually said Jesse should make a parody of the aerobic cryptid dating show.
We got a couple cryptid parodies that are floating around in our mind that we just have to get time to film. So,
and James Barker had a great suggestion. We're gonna do Patreon content with Joe in his Hex underwear and Jesse working out. See,
get those credit cards warmed up, boys and girls. Up, kids. So.
My God, it's actually if it was done in, I don't know. Yeah. If it was done in a tasteful way, because
tasteful nudity
for you.
So, yeah, exactly. Aaron Rose said, "Isn't it something like humans can only see 8% of the light spectrum?" I don't know the exact percentage, but we see a fraction of it. And when you start getting into more like kind of odd, out there, esoteric kind of things, like you know, Ron Moorhead talks about vibrations and whatnot. You know, the vibrations that different possible entities might exist in that we just are unaware of them, almost like a dimensional shift. Like they're right there next to you, but they're just on a different dimension. They're in a different vibrational plane. And, you know, a lot of that talk used to be considered just crazy new age stuff.
Yeah.
And then as our understanding of like quantum mechanics and all that and quantum physics have gone on, people are starting to realize, hey, a lot of this is actually how the universe works on a microscopic level, on a very small level, or subatomic level, I guess. So,
going back to that fitness thing, Matt Keenan says, to be honest, our community could use a fitness guide for field investigation. You should put out a Hellbent fitness checklist. Be ready to hike 15 miles carrying 15 pounds of gear and the like. I agree. It's something I kind of kicked around, and it's something that eventually I might work on doing. It would be more of a practical thing and like practical things that you can do to kind of prepare to do this kind of work. It wouldn't be kind of a cheesy 80s Aerobicize where I'm telling cryptid stories, but it would be more of a practical physical fitness.
If there's enough people out there, because we would love to see more people get out there and do this sort of stuff.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I mean, taking witness accounts and compiling stuff is important, but a lot of people do that. And and you hear about people doing, I'm boots on the ground, and they're KOA, campground, like, walking around the perimeter. But it's definitely something that we would like to see more people kind of get involved with. And that's why we're always open to any questions that anybody has or any advice that we can give. So
Tanner France says, I have heard many things of different classes of dogmen. Can you guys elaborate?
Yeah, the types of dogmen. I don't even know how many types there are now.
And I think that evolves as this online cryptid stories thing.
You wonder how much of that is people who just sit down and go through a wide, because Linda Godfrey did that to a certain extent. She talked about like the man-wolf type things that just look like upright wolves.
And sort of catalogs them.
And then the Anubis type. So she kind of started that with the cataloging type, but now you've got like all of these different types. I don't know how much of that is somebody has sat down and actually taken, a real global view of a lot of accounts and then started subdividing them down, or how much of that is just kind of a continuation. What do you call it? Pokemon, where people want to collect them all,
Yeah.
But there definitely seems to be different types. I mean, there definitely seems to be different types. There definitely seems to be types that have similar appearance, but definitely seem to behave in different ways and might very well have different origins.
Mm-hmm.
There's some that seem to behave just like flesh and blood creatures, but it's obviously they're not flesh and blood creatures that are from here.
Yeah.
There are some that behave more demonic, and then there's some that just seem flat out like supernatural. So James Barker also had another thing here about Doug Hijack mentioned on the Wide Open Pod that he had used a fairly cheap camera, a Wise, and he allegedly was able to film a group of Sasquatch. Did he release that footage? I mean, he's a documentarian. I mean, he's in the entertainment biz. I wonder if he released it.
I don't know.
Wonder what is different about that camera. I don't know much about that type of camera, but we've discussed that on here before about
analog versus
stuff.
digital.
Matter of fact, Jesse got an analog analog recorder to use as opposed to a digital recorder in certain areas that we're going to try out.
Yeah, we're going to experiment with using analog recorders because as some of you may know, Ron Moorhead recorded some of the best Sasquatch
Mhm.
evidence with the Sierra sounds. He used an analog
Like a
recorder.
reel. Yeah.
It was just a analog recorder, and then you've got what is some of the best piece of Sasquatch evidence visually is the Patterson-Gimlin film with
Yep,
a analog
film.
film camera. So we were kind of hypothesizing, is there something to the digital versus analog? So we were going to experiment with that. As you know, we like to experiment with different things and kind of try different stuff out. So we're going to try with that analog audio recording and see if we can get something, see if we can pick up different stuff on one versus the other. We're going to run both at the same time. Then we're going to compare the audio between the two in an active area. And that could be with, you know, anything cryptid or anything, you know, ghost-like, paranormal, or anything like that.
Sisters revitalization.
You have to slow down when we say that one.
Yeah. Do y'all ever burn sage? Jesse's got a whole thing with like her little weird granny mountain magic stuff that she does to like clear our house. So, but like I said, it hadn't really been weird for a while.
No,
and you didn't really do anything like out of the ordinary. It just seems like it just stopped. It didn't even really peter out. We were talking about how stuff was literally moving in front of us, which literally moved in front of us, not like, oh, out of the corner of my eye, looking at it and it moved.
Yeah.
Which is the craziest thing ever. And it's, you know, right after that happened, I was thinking about that. I can remember like when I was a kid, I had a nightmare about stuff moving in my house. You know, like you're in your house and like stuff's floating around, and it was terrifying. And it's when that happened, I guess it's because we've dealt with so much scary stuff out in the woods.
Yeah.
We were both just like, holy crap. But neither one of us like flipped out or, you know, we need to get a hotel for the night and call an exorcist or anything like that at all. It was just like, it did it again. You know, it's just how your kind of threshold for the bizarre kind of moves. You get a little calloused with it sometimes. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So
I feel like sometimes we do that in the field. We will be out and, you know, we'll find something or something will happen. And we've been kind of watching a few other YouTubers lately, and mostly like paranormal YouTubers. And we're like watching a couple of these different channels because I'm always interested in how other people edit their videos or how they approach the subject. So we were watching a bunch of different videos. We watched one where it's like these like younger guys doing it. And every time
the Generation Z ghost hunters.
Yeah, they're like Gen Z ghost hunters. And I hate we're watching it. Joe and I are like, God, we're like really old people right now because we're watching it because we just can't relate with what's going on. But literally every little thing that, and they're a very popular channel, and for what they do a great job.
It's edited together pretty damn well.
It's entertaining. So, yeah, like you and I sat there and watched it.
I watched
like,
pretty much
no
the whole
problem.
thing. So
we really enjoyed it. But like every little thing that happened, they would just have this insane reaction. Like every little crack in the woods.
I mean, they just flipped out. They hit the roof on every single one.
They would just whoa and scream and go nuts.
And
like
we talked about that like a couple of weeks ago. We were out and we found those prints. And we were both just like, they're just prints. Let's go, you know. And I'm going, wait, hold on. We need to slow down. And you're like, yeah, we need to get some photos of these because we've had some pretty crazy stuff happen.
Yeah.
And when you're out there, that's what you want to happen. I mean, and you got to watch out for that because like a bunch of smaller stuff can give you a picture of what's going on as opposed to that one great, you know, just 10 minutes of just sheer like insanity stuff going on, like with that light, you know, that may never happen to us again.
Or that audio that we captured around that tree. So, that's, I mean, that's to me, that's insane evidence. That audio that we captured is unlike anything I've ever heard. And that was like some of the wildest evidence I have personally ever heard. And that, in addition to when we saw the portal thing, we captured that on thermal, we captured that on video. I hate to say it, but it seems like you and I are really capturing some wild evidence lately. Like we have captured, I mean, well, not even just lately, since we started doing this.
We need to do like a greatest hits type thing.
Yeah, like
some of the thermal images, some of the audio stuff we've captured.
Some of that eye shine that comes up.
The lights that we've caught and everything like that. So
yeah, that's not a bad idea that we do that.
That's the thing is that, you know, you see some stuff sometimes and you know, people will post photos and people will look at it and they're just like, is it something or is it just the way the leaves are, you know, is it pareidolia? But it's with our thermal stuff. I mean, that's body heat coming off of it. You know what I'm saying? You know, we've gotten 2 pretty good thermal images so far.
Yeah.
And that's not really you mistaking, like seeing a pattern in leaves. It's not there. That's body heat. You know what I'm saying? Something's
yeah.
giving off heat there that is shaped like the stuff you're looking for. So that's why I'm so glad we've gone heavy on thermal lately. So all right.
They were responding about the Doug Hijack thing. Apparently, he did not have an SD card in. James Barker says at Joe, he said they forgot to put the SD card in it or forgot to hook it up to the cloud storage. Sasquatch.
The Oz factor.
Yeah.
So, yeah. The Oz factor.
And then Pyromedic follows up with that, which says Doug said his camera wasn't linked to the cloud, so it didn't record when he was watching it live.
You know, and people that are not into this sort of stuff that already are dismissive of it will just take that as a opportunity to go, yep, it's all fake. It never happens. But then the people that are out there doing it, I like the Oz factor. Sometimes it's just, we always talk about this, the best piece of audio evidence we would have caught up until the stuff at the tree. Because I think the tree's like crazier. But it's back when we just had like one camera. And we stopped to make some food and like charge up batteries and clean everything because, you know, you get muddy and dirty kind of going around the woods. And we were sitting there cooking hot dogs, remember? And around the fire. And we heard that really crazy wail, which is unlike anything else and went on for so long. And even though it went on for so long, we didn't get it because we just sat there and looked at each other. And then we had gone until had really exhausted our last battery. So we're trying to find a battery that's got enough charge in it to get it into the camera.
Yeah.
That's why we went so crazy heavy on like audio recorders. I mean, we have got at this point, like 4 to 6 Avistors, the Sony, 2 Zoom. We've just got like all these audio recorders and we always have at least one of those running because we're like never again.
And that's what led to us having that constant thing that we say.
Always be recording.
Always be recording. AVR. Always be recording. Which is funny because you and I wear like 511 stuff all the time. And their slogan is AVR, always be ready.
Oh, gotcha. So
but yeah, so that led to always be recording. So no matter what, we have something going, whether it's
that stuff happens.
Audio or video.
And here's the deal. It's similar to the like David Paulides stuff, the point of separation, how the phenomenon just seems to know the exact moment that it can strike and get away with it.
Yeah.
Okay. Sometimes it almost seems like the phenomenon knows when it can show itself and you won't be able to document it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, literally, we're just sitting there going, we look at each other and we stop for a second because the whale's rising and it's falling. And I'm like, is that an ambulance or like, is that a siren? And then we're like, there's no roads up here. There's no siren up here. And then it had kind of it changed pitch a little bit. And then we're scrambling. And then right as we're trying to get it, it just gone. And it just gave us one more story to tell, you know, and just like Doug Hijack's got a story to tell. Well, where's your proof? I didn't have an SD card in, or I wasn't connected to the cloud. Yeah, you're full of it, you know. So but that stuff happens, man. So
I wish we got that. That would have been amazing. Blondes and Booze Paranormal Podcast says, Jesse, do you keep and use crystals? I use sage and also have crystals in the house. I do use crystals from time to time. I'm not super heavy into crystals though. But I do have some and I use them from time to time.
Any update on that Faraday cage hex suit thing? Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know if we're gonna be able to do it before it gets too hot to wear it.
Yeah.
We don't really, it's weird because like spring will roll around and I'll see people who do like Bigfoot research in other parts of the country going, spring's here. It's time to get your, investigation plans ready. We don't really operate in the hottest part of the summer because it's like South Carolina and like North Georgia and all that. It's too hot and humid.
The humidity is so bad that
your cameras are almost next to useless. Your thermals are useless because the background is just as hot as something giving off heat. They barely work. You can't stay hydrated enough. So anyway, we might have it before the weather gets too warm, or that might be something we roll into next year.
That might be a thing for next fall that we.
I definitely want to try it. It's also, it's a money thing too. I got to figure out where our cash is best served out at this point. We have to operate within a budget, so I want to do it though. It seems like I know people have talked about doing it, and I think Todd Standing of all people has actually used it. I don't know if anybody else has or not, but I definitely want to see if it works. So.
Dolores Edwards says, have you ever run into the wrong turn type family on your adventures? If so, what did you do? I think the closest thing to that we've run into is those people when we went to Corpsewood Manor.
Corpsewood Manor people. We ran.
Oh man. Oh, we were seeing those people in that van up in North Georgia.
People in this. All right. So these are roads that we take like, it's 4-wheel drive vehicles was what we take up in there, and it's rough. And even then there's parts we look at it and go, oh, it's kind of sketchy, you know. So these roads are, I don't know how many decades it's been since they've been maintained.
Yeah.
There's one major road that goes through there that occasionally some off-road dudes will take. We've seen that on the base of it, but not in really deep. So that part at the base of the mountain is a little cleared, but it's not maintained. It's just cleared. We've had to like pull trees out of the way. We take a chainsaw with us in order to get through there. What I'm trying to paint you a picture of is just how disgustingly rough it is up there with those roads.
Yeah.
And we saw this freaking van.
It was if you could think in your mind right now, this is a kidnapper's van.
If you could think in your mind of what a wrong-term family like took a van out of a junkyard and got it running just enough to cruise like old mountain roads to like
pick up hikers.
It's exactly
to
what
murder
this looked
them.
like.
Yes.
Clapped out, no license plate, windows out on it, rusted out, sounded like it was barely running. And I'm like, how did they get that up in here?
And they're just driving it super slow.
And
And
we
were on the side of the road because we
like
just
tree
came
line.
out.
Yeah.
And they drove by and like they saw us because we were like coming out of the woods there. And they come out, we come out and they see us and they just all look at us as they go by. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I was like, we gotta go.
Yeah. So that was weird. And one of my thing was I'm like, how did they get that van up in here? And then I'm like, that van probably just stays up in here. That van probably doesn't leave. They probably are up in here and that van is up
That's
in
their
here.
nabbing van.
Yeah, exactly. They're nabbing the nabbing van.
It's the nabbing van. Chaos says, hang on, let's go over here. Chaos, if we'll get it to work. My thing's not working. Is it working? Nope, mine's not working at all.
What are you trying to do?
I can't get anything to work. Oh,
there you go.
There we go. Todd Hall says, "Hey J&J, what do you guys feel or think about shadow figures? Thank you for your time."
I don't know what they are, but we've seen them.
Yeah, we have no idea. I don't know if it's like something in another dimension or in our reality, but cloaking in a way, or if it's something in another dimension that is somehow crossing the veil in a way, and maybe is sort of peeking through. Or if it's some sort of evil entity. I don't know. I have no idea. There's so many theories on what it could be.
But we've seen them, and I don't know if you'd consider this a shadow person or not, but on our second, with the werewolf experiments, the second video of that, the night when we heard that weird singing and we heard those voices and we went around and made sure that there was nobody around us, we couldn't figure out where it was coming from. I see something kind of on thermal peeking out from behind a tree. Like you always hear that about like classic Sasquatch behavior, like that tree peeking type stuff. You can see the shoulder into the head. The head looks a little sloped, but not too much. And I'm looking at it on my thermal, and then I have my flashlight ready, and then I take it away, and then I hit the flashlight, and there's like nothing there. There's just nothing there. And I look back and it's there on my thermal. So I snap a couple photos of it real quick. It's this black outline next to a tree. And we include it briefly, and we don't really give a lot of backstory on it because we just wanted to put it out there. But what's crazy is it was a dark outline in my thermal. Well, I had it on white hot. So a dark figure is going to be colder than its surroundings.
Like very cold.
And there's a old concrete pad there where a building used to be that it's like right past. So that was colder than concrete in February.
Yeah.
But I couldn't see it with my naked eye. But it's an obvious outline of something.
You have that. That's in the second episode from the werewolf experiments of the LBL. Yeah. And it's towards the end. It's when we hear those voices.
But you see it, and it's just there. I mean, it looks like, again, if it's just your mind playing tricks on you, what's causing a cold spot that's the outline of some sort of humanoid figure at that point? And I that's one of the things that I always think of is like, did I just catch a shadow figure on thermal? And because it was nighttime and it's in the trees and all of that, when I hit it with the flashlight, I just couldn't see it. Because when the flashlight was off, it was just too dark to see. So, but it's crazy. But like people always look at that and go, oh, you got like a Bigfoot. And I'm like, if it was a Bigfoot, then it was like a very cold creature. You know what I'm saying? So, because it's colder than the cement around it. So
ice foot. Chaos says visual recording is pointless, but audio seems to actually attract more. You know, Timothy Renner of Strange Familiars hypothesized about. I'm actually wearing a Strange Familiars shirt today. Jesse's T-shirt of the day, Strange Familiars. So Timothy Renner actually hypothesized that there's something about it that can't quite put his finger on, but that it allows us to record audio, but doesn't allow us to record.
Yeah, like
video.
you're allowed to go, but so far with it. Now, keep in mind, we've gotten lights on camera. And what's weird is that sometimes that's why we went with the full spectrum camera, because it seems like it picks up some of those lights better than just regular night vision does, like little orbs or flashes of light and stuff like that. We've gotten stuff on thermal, but we've never really gotten a figure or anything like that on our camera. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there's definitely something there, but we've started to get some pretty good audio stuff. So Stingray 1975, you need to put a monkey in that tunnel with a GoPro.
We gotta get a monkey.
My brother, now we need a monkey.
Hey, you know what? If we got a monkey, that would solve our gorilla piss issue.
I just
and
bottle it at home. So,
yeah, we'd just be making our own.
Bottle it at home.
Solve all the problems. Take Two Wheels says, Jesse and Joe, what made you guys get interested in the paranormal or odd happenings?
I had a sighting of something when I was a kid in George Washington National Forest in Virginia. I don't know if it was somebody like playing a trick on me or what, but it was pretty close up.
You okay?
Yeah. Anyway, but and I didn't I don't know what it was. And then I had like weird paranormal activity in my house when I was like a kid. And that kind of scared me away from like paranormal stuff. I didn't want anything to do with it. To this day, I'm still wary about stuff like that. I don't really like getting involved with that. So
yeah. Ever since I was a kid, I've always grown up in a family who have interacted with the other in one way or another. My mother can contact spirits and ghosts and sees them. She has seen them her entire life. I've seen apparitions my entire life. I've interacted with apparitions my entire life. It's just been something that's been part of my existence, and my family and everything. There are people in my family who have seen and spoken to what they refer to as the devil, but it could be a demon or something like that. But there's so many family stories of this is something that's been ingrained in what we've done and been a part of for years and years and years. So I naturally had an interest in that. I always knew it was real. I always knew that there was something to this. So I've always been interested in it. And I've always looked into it and studied and researched about it. And it's just always been a part of my life. So
then when we got together, we decided to move back into the Appalachians. We decided to I was more involved with like the physical aspect of it. She was more involved with like the paranormal aspect of it, and decided to kind of blend them together to try to like mix it together and kind of see what came up with it. And that's how Hellbent Holler kind of got along. So
Dead End Yard Haunt, thank you for the $3.99 super sticker. Also, if you guys are get a moment, please hit that like button. We really appreciate that. We appreciate you guys joining us tonight for our regular Monday night show. A really, really good show.
Handle questions for a couple seconds.
I'm looking here. Everybody's talking about this dating show and the wrong turn people, and this is just a mashup. Let's see. Paul M says, what are your theories on numbers of Bigfoot, Dogman, etc. versus what an area can support in food? Turn of the century humans alone almost wiped out the deer population. What do you think could be supported?
I don't think that they're here eating all the time. I think that they do feed when they're here, because you'll sometimes get reports of them just engaged in just normal animal behavior, like feeding. Joe Perdue, when he saw the Sasquatch that he saw, they were engaged in just feeding. They were feeding, but I don't think they're here all the time. I don't know where they go to or where they come from, but I just don't think they're here. And when I say here, above ground, this dimension, this planet, whatever, I don't know. But I think if they were here all the time, we'd have one in a cage or on a slab, or there would be more information to it. I think that the parallels between the stuff on the ground and the stuff that's in the sky
That makes me think when you were talking about that they come here to feed, that they come here just to feed every now and then, or
they're just passing through and they catch a quick meal while they're here.
It made me think of, we recently watched David Paulides' Missing 411, the UFO connection, and there's one segment in there where a gentleman encounters these beings and they are taking 5 elk. And he ends up on their craft with them, and they have the 5 elk on the craft, and he asks them why they're taking his elk, and they say that they need them to eat them. So that kind of reminded me of that. I don't know if you guys have seen that yet. It's actually a pretty good film. We really enjoyed that.
Okay, has a thing. LBA used to be only 2 rivers. Yeah, it was the land between the rivers, and maybe they flooded into lakes in an attempt to hide something. That is one of the theories, or an attempt to try to contain something. One of the people that we spoke to that had lived in that area, actually his family had land that they no longer had because it was taken. I'm sure they were compensated for it, but they were probably not enough to have your family home taken, which is a running theme in this region.
Yeah.
But he was under the impression, his thought was this, is that they made those lakes to contain something. But then he was the one who told us that there's like tunnels and like caves going under the water to the mainland. And matter of fact, that's when we found Station 16 and that tunnel that we found, because we were in an area where he told us he had seen activity. He had seen creatures on the shoreline there. So it might be that they did it to try to contain something, and then it was either successful, not successful, whatever. So
Stephen Taylor, thank you for that $20. Happy New Year to you, sir. And somewhere in the chat, he responded to you about that EMF.
Okay, I'm kind of going through it right now. So
I know we're trying to keep up with the chat, guys.
Yeah.
It's a going.
All right. Stephen Taylor, do you have to calibrate the EMF? No, if you get the tri-field, if you get some cheap EMFs are just they're not going to give accurate readings. The tri-field meter, again, that same one that you always see everybody uses, that's accurate. That comes pre-calibrated. That's why you want to try to get a decent one. But I've got one that's fairly inexpensive that we use that is pretty well known for being fairly accurate. I'll send it to you and let you know what the link is for it. So
XOOX or Zoox says, hardline question. Where's the video of the glowing light, the faces, and floating up? I apologize for being blunt. Much respect for all your hard work, but why the delay?
Because we've been spending all of our time in the woods,
Yeah.
free time, trying to follow up on it and see if we can get any more.
Yep, but I do have that video and all that stuff loaded into my editing software, so I am putting that together. I'm in the process of getting that together and out. Because I want you guys to see it. I'm not delaying for any purpose.
And again, there's no faces in it. I saw, because I was taller than her, what looked like figures moving. Well, it wasn't look like there were figures moving around the bottom of it. You can kind of see a little bit. Again, this was shot with a small action cam. So there's gonna be some people that look at it and go,
it's
a lantern, that's a this, that's a that.
Speck of light, yeah.
No, I mean, we caught it on thermal too and everything. It's just you see it higher up in the air. I mean, it'll get released, but you got to also remember we're a 2-person show. And to be quite honest with you, you were fine to be blunt. Allow me to be blunt back. The YouTube channel stuff is the field investigations are our main focus, especially when there is ongoing stuff and that we're getting intriguing emails. We're having activity out there and everything like that. That's what we're focused on. It's the YouTube channel. We want to share it with everybody. I don't want to try to minimize the importance of that and everything like that. But at the same token, at the end of the day, I mean, if something had to go, it would be putting videos out and it would be continuing the actual field research. Right now, we are pushing at it pretty hard.
Yeah.
Because quite honestly, that light had a real effect on us. Not like a physical effect, but just an effect that it's got us worried, intrigued, curious. It's something I've thought about pretty much constantly every day since it's happened.
Yeah.
So we have been on our free time kind of looking for more. We're
we are getting out there as much as we can, because if something is going on, we don't want to miss it. We don't want to be here editing video.
Yeah.
We would like to be out there, and then we will get the video out. It'll
Yeah.
come out. But when we're not working our regular jobs, which we do have regular jobs, when we're not doing that, we're out there because we're looking for what is going on. We're trying to follow up on this.
Yeah.
So the video will come. It's in the editor. It's in my my thing right now. I'm editing it a little at a time and getting it put together, but it will come.
We actually went out because, again, some people are going to look at this and go, "Oh, it's just a little light." And again, there's no faces in it. I could make out figures around the base of it.
Yeah.
She couldn't see it because she's a foot shorter than me. And then even then, when the light lifted up, I couldn't see the figures anymore. That's why I wanted to get out of there, because I didn't know where they were. If they were still there and just you couldn't quite make them out against the whatever that light was, or if they had moved off, if they were moving towards us, anything like that.
And not to like hype up this video like a lot or anything, but like you in the video, it looks like a white just ball of light there, and then there's a bit of movement. You can see the movement,
and then it's hot,
and it's, you know, I've got the heat, but it's not like we have.
It's not like Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
No, we don't have that
sequence. It's not.
We don't have the smoking gun.
We did go out and try to recreate it with a flashlight and then a lantern, like lamp type thing, and it's definitely not that.
Yeah.
There's no heat off of those. B, it was a lot. One of the things that struck us when we took the lights out there, and then I stayed where we were, and then Jesse moved over to where we believe this thing was. It was a lot bigger than what we originally thought, looking at it. But the flashlights and all that, unless you turned it on high and pointed it right at the camera, didn't really look like much. And when you did that, you had a star artifact around it, and you could see it lighting up trees around it and all of that. This was weird. It was very brightly illuminated, but it didn't illuminate anything else around it. It was like that light was contained somehow. Again, I'm sure I don't want people to think that, we've got a craft landing with things getting out of it, but I think you'll be able to hear in our voices.
That would be cool.
Well, I don't know, man. I don't know if I'm down for that. So anyway,
we're trying to catch up with the chat too.
Robert had asked if he thought music was associated with some, and I'm seeing the response to that. I don't see the original comment again. I think I've gone past it. Asked if we thought that music was. I don't have any personal experience with that. Obviously, you've heard stories about people playing like, different musical instruments and drawing, and usually like Sasquatch. We've never really done anything like that. So I think we're like a little bit too redneck and hectic for stuff like that. We like going out and trying to do stuff. Sitting around like doing music like that just is not our nature. But people have apparently done it and had success with it at this point. So
there was that video that we watched where that guy was out there with drums,
with a full drum set.
Yes,
yeah.
I love that. Yeah. Got a lot of really good conversation in the chat with everybody. This mouse sucks.
Didn't Pyromatics, he won't be going on with Turtle Man anytime soon. Didn't he do like a Bigfoot type thing one time? So yeah, probably so.
There was that period of TV where everybody was doing a Bigfoot thing, and it was, I think the Bigfoot cultural phenomenon is dying off a little bit. I think it peaked out because there was a point in time where you go anywhere and there's just Bigfoot stuff everywhere. There's just like Bigfoot tea towels and
and that's good because you get more people.
Yeah.
Some people might just think it's cute and it's funny and everything like that, but that does get more people into it. So it's good. Where's Sasquatch Room? IR night vision camera recommendations, please. Like we've mentioned earlier, we've gone more towards full spectrum stuff. However, it has its limitations. It seems like it is able to pick up lights better if you're seeing like orbs or just weird flashes of lights, but it's shorter range. We carried like a Sony, I think it's like an FDR something or other, AX something, that had great night vision capabilities, but it is bulky. It's an all-around great camera, and it's expensive, and I don't want to drop it and break it and be out, money for it. We've got a Psionics full color night vision monocular. I don't even know if you could call it a camera. It records, but we've been taking that out. That's very limited in what you use it for. It's got a manual focus. It's got a pretty narrow range of vision, you know, but it picks up light extremely well in the darkness. And that's what I've been kind of taking out, hoping we see that light again, like that plasma or whatever it was again, because where the full spectrum camera struggled to pick it up, the psionics would do a really good job of picking it up once I got it focused in. So if you're looking for just a handheld night vision camera, and if you're looking to use it on the move and everything like that as well, I'd go for like one of those full spectrum action cams. You know, if you want to use it stationary and you're not moving and you're observing a fixed point, the psionics are pretty good, even though they've kind of gotten a little bit pricey. They went up a couple $100 a piece in price. So
Kaiju Ninja 1985 says, have you heard of any mimicking of your voices or other animals during your investigations? We heard, I don't know if I included it in the video. It was the video, it was when the hunter become the hunted.
You did not include it in there.
Okay, so when the hunter became the hunted video, becomes the hunter video, we see these, it's towards the end of the video. I see a light in the woods while I'm in the truck and he's running back into the woods like he tends to do. I see a light in the woods, a white light that's about the size of a car light. And I see that in the woods and then it goes away. And then he gets in the truck and then we go up the hill and we're going back to where we have our campsite set up and it's up on a hilltop. And we're coming up the gravel road up towards where we have our campsite set up. And you can see this in the video. There's lights up at our campsite. We're like, there's lights at our site. We thought that there were people up there and we had like a bunch of gear up there because we set up camp for the night.
But it was kind of diffused. We thought at first that somebody had turned our lantern on inside of our tent.
Yeah.
And then there was a big stationary light that was kind of diffused. And then there was a smaller moving one. We had most of our like equipment with us,
yeah,
but our tent's expensive, you know, stuff's not cheap. So we thought somebody was up there messing around with our campsite.
And I had just gotten this tent and I was very protective over it. I was
protective of my tent. So
it's a very nice tent, but I was really angry that somebody's up there messing with my damn tent. So I was like, we've got to go up there. So we got our guns. We go up the hill.
We were yelling that if there's somebody up there to like, and it's, the reason why we chose that hill is there's only one way up. It's a drop off on 3 sides.
Yeah. So there's no way up or down besides that one path and it's thick woods other than that. And then the other 3 sides are just a drop off. So there's no way anybody can get in or out of there without us confronting them. So we're running up that hill and we have that in that video. We're running up that hill and we're going up there to confront somebody and there's nobody up there. There's no lights up there. Our lantern and our tent was not on. It was just nothing. And so I think that's where I ended the video as we were doing that and we ran up there and checked that out. What I didn't include that in the video because I think we decided that we wouldn't include it in the video because it was almost too strange at that point.
Well, we're up there. We're breaking camp down at that point. We've decided we're not going to try to sleep up there. We're going to get everything in the car ready to go in case we decide to leave. And we start hearing like this owl sound just from right at the tree line, like really close, really loud, really deep. And one of us goes, "That's not an owl."
It was me because I was taking the tent down and you're like watching out around us and we hear that and I go, "That's not an owl." And you're like, "I know it's not." And we're looking for it. I mean, there's no owl there. And it sounded like it was not even 10 feet away from us. And it was so loud. And deep. Yep. And it sounded very strange. It sounded very off. I'm skeptical about, I know what I heard with that. And you could say, oh, it was an owl. Okay. All right. Well, I didn't include it in there because there is that possibility it was an owl. I honestly do not believe it was an owl. I believe it was something mimicking an owl.
But when we checked the footage afterwards, you couldn't really tell on the footage.
Yeah.
It sounded owl-like, but because it was a ways away from it, it didn't really come across very well. And we decided not to include it because people are going to go, "Oh, these people are just getting freaked out by owls in the woods."
Yeah. So But other than that, I think that was the only time we've ever heard anything mimicking something that we were certain that was not what it
Yeah.
was.
We've heard weird stuff. We've heard like weird kind of, um, we heard what sounded like they call it a pant hoot when gorillas do it. That we heard that one night, which is again weird because I don't think these things are like apes. You know what I'm saying? Like we heard like what sounded like chest beating one night. Um, so we've heard weird stuff, you know, but as far as like a mimic goes, yeah, I think that's the only time we've really heard anything that might have been something mimicking, you know what I'm saying? And we can't tell. That might have just been a really weird owl,
Yeah.
sounding owl that we couldn't find on anything, but it was just weird that we couldn't find it. So
And we are trying to get a lot. There's so many comments right now. We're trying to get through some of these. David Hunt, I can see your comments. I can see them. I can see your comments.
David Hunt sent us something on Instagram as well. My Instagram barely works. I think I saw what you had sent me, but I'll have to double check. It's no matter what I'm hooked onto Wi-Fi data, it tells me that I don't have an internet connection. So
Patricia Gambino Harrington says, have you two heard about the German author who has written a book about the connection between the Brown Mountain Lights and what happened at the Dyatlov Pass?
No, I've never heard of that.
I'm fascinated by what happened at the Dyatlov Pass. I don't think it was a Sasquatch that happened. I think it was something bigger, and I think it was something more. I take kind of this weird ancient interdimensional evil kind of approach that something opened up there, and because the way that of what happened as a Dyatlov Pass is just, it doesn't strike me as like a Sasquatch attack. It strikes me as something evil and otherworldly.
Unknown compelling force.
An unknown compelling force.
Henning Kirsten, I'm assuming is who that is. So I'll have to look that up. So
I've got a note about that
all
here,
right,
so we'll check that out. There was a TV show where this guy, I don't remember what it was called, but he was doing a thing where he was looking into the Brown Mountain Lights, and he actually tried to hike to the location in which they originated from. I think that would be pretty cool for us to do. If you'd be interested in doing something like that.
Yeah, let's do it. We're going to be in that area for the other thing that we're doing up there. So
oh, that's true. Yes, yeah, so we could do that.
Do a little route, like a little side quest.
Used Television says, do you think orbs appearing in the woods behind my house can be dangerous? It seems they're becoming aggressive.
Okay, so look at the folklore that is involved with stuff like this. People, you know, that people hundreds, if not thousands of years ago were dealing often with the exact same stuff that we're dealing with right now, with the exact same creatures that we're dealing with right now. And you were always told not to follow the orbs or the lights into the woods. Now you'd have European equivalents of like will-o-wisps that would often lead you into bodies of water, you know, like little hidden ponds and all that, and you would drown. And then other times you would just go in there and you would be fairy led, is what it was called, and you would be taken to the realm of fairy, and that you may not come back, or you might come back thinking a short time had passed, but instead years had passed in like the regular world. So they were very conversant about the dangers of following these weird little balls of light. Okay. So flash forward to modern times, and you've still got some Native American tradition to this day that will tell you don't follow the lights into the woods, you know. But when you start looking into, again, the parallels between this sort of stuff, the stuff that's taking place on the ground and in the woods and all of that, and the UAP activity, one of the more famous cases that the UAP guys, you know, the former ATIP and OSAP guys have talked about, is one of the guys they dealt with. He and his daughter were driving somewhere one night, and they saw these balls of light, and these balls of light pulled up with them, and kind of basically went through the car and went through the guy's chest, and he began to have extremely serious health issues the next day, that they could not figure out what had caused that. So there are cases of these lights causing like damage to people, causing harm to people.
Chaos mentions a few people have associated blue orbs with health being affected.
Exactly right. So,
and then,
so that has happened before. So you don't know when you follow these lights, are they leading you to something that's dangerous, or are they dangerous themselves and they're just leading you in where they have more freedom to do what they will? But yeah, there's definitely
And Alex W follows up with, wasn't the orb that killed the dogs at
Skinwalker Ranch blue. That was my next thing that I was going to, where the guy, they followed those blue orbs. One of the guys at Skinwalker Ranch had his dogs out. And I believe this is before Bigelow took it over. I believe it was the family that had it before them. But his dogs were out and they chased these blue orbs. And he said the orbs were kind of like playing with the dogs, like kind of getting away from them and then coming back to let them catch up, leading the dogs off. And something basically liquidated these dogs. He found remnants of his dogs that looked like they had been basically, I don't know, disintegrated, liquefied, whatever. So, so that's not lingering health issues. That's an immediate fatality that's caused by it. So yeah, I mean, I would take them seriously. I mean, we didn't go towards that last light we saw. You wanted to, and I had to drag you back because I saw the figures in it. We generally try to move towards the lights that we see, but the lights that we see are usually like little just dots. They're like little balls. We've never seen anything like what we saw a couple weekends ago. So,
going back to the IR, well, I was going to ask you a question. Do you think the Brown Mountain lights are orbs? Would you consider those orbs?
I don't know, because I don't think that, I mean, most of the footage that people get from them are from a distance.
Yeah.
So I don't think that I know there's lots of theories out there, mundane and like crazy theories. When I say crazy, kind of like what we do crazy, they're not piezoelectric effect. They're not like, earthquake lights. They're not anything like that. I mean, every time somebody thinks they've been debunked, the debunking itself gets debunked. So I don't know. They might be, they might be. The one area we go to that has a lot of lights, they talk about how there's Native American legends that they were the lanterns of the spirits moving around, the Cherokee legend of that. And so I don't know. We're not going to know until we get close enough to find out. So
Quartz Griner Photography brought up that he's been using a standard IR video camera, but recently started using an external IR light that looks like a flashlight that extends the power of the IR beam. Good stuff. Yeah. So that's what we use mounted to our psionics. Yeah. I think I have a photo of that on my Instagram from a while back where we took like an AR rail mounting accessory and mounted that flashlight, that IR flashlight on it. And you can tighten the beam or widen the beam. But that's what we've been using with the psionics, because the onboard psionics IR isn't.
There is no onboard.
I mean, sorry.
Yeah.
But
it doesn't have an onboard IR. So yeah.
That's what it was. Yeah. Sorry. We have onboards for everything else. Like the Phasm cam and everything has an onboard that's not great, but that's why you have the additional one. But the psionics just gathers the light. It doesn't produce an IR light. But when you have an additional IR, it has more light for it to gather.
And we used with the Phasm camera, we use the actual associated Phasm light, and that's phenomenal for short distance. I mean, phenomenal. Great battery life. It's got really good coverage. Although we were out in an area this past weekend that was like scattered pines. It wasn't the thick kind of like mountain laurels and thick foliage like we're used to dealing with, and the light couldn't bounce off anything. So our footage looked markedly different. But with that, we use the Phasm light. With the Sony, we have 4 or 6 infrared like floodlights that will attach to the top and use. And then like, yeah, we've got a 940 NM infrared flashlight that we've got mounted under the bottom of the Sonics. Jesse kind of jury rigged up a little clip on the bottom to have that. So it's one handheld unit, and we can flood it, or if we need some distance to it, actually just kind of tighten that beam up then. So
I'm still way back here in the chat. You guys there's so many people talking.
Yeah.
I'm trying to catch up.
Excuse me.
You okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sniffly too. Chaos thinks that owls are annoying little pricks. So just so we know.
There we go. So
Jay Myers followed an orb 2 times and woke up married.
Boy, it all comes back to the wives and the ex-wives in this chat, doesn't it? So yeah.
What the Flock is about to tune in with the head.
I'm sure what the Flock is. That's his cue.
And if you guys could hit that like button for us, that would be awesome. Sorry, we are trying to get all of this caught up. Not today. Saban is in the house. All right, I'm trying to get to the bottom here. Here we go. All right, we've made it. Are you laughing at what some of these people are saying?
Dead end yard hunt. Yep. So, them talking about the different names for the van that they saw. So, all right, Paul M's got a good one. Corpsewood Manor has some bad mojo feelings to it. Went there last year. Heavy occult signs present. I'd worry about the occult activity more than anything else. We were worried about the people doing the occult activity more than anything else. We didn't even make it till nightfall there because we were afraid that they were going to disable our vehicle or do something like that. And next time we go, we're going to try to, we'd need a couple people, two people to stay with the vehicle, two people to go in on foot, you know. But what's weird is that when we were doing like research on this area, you're finding like teenage girls doing like prom photos at the actual like ruins and all that. And I'm going, well, did they go on like an off day when it just didn't feel weird? Were they just oblivious to all the other stuff going around? Because you're not the only one, Paul. It's like said that they've seen the same thing we've seen. Like there's visible occult activity up there. And it's not that there's a couple of rural teenage metalheads scrawling some heavy metal lyrics up there. You know, there's legit cult activity going on up there. Empty pet carriers where they took animals up there to sacrifice.
Children's clothes.
She ripped up children's clothing. I've never been somewhere that just felt like dirty. It felt foul up there. There was a foulness to just the air up there. It stunk. It just everything. So, but then you have other people that are just like, oh, we went up there and took my prom photos. So, all right.
Of course, somebody has to mention a puck wedgie at some point in time.
New Leaf Night Vision. Heard of it. Glenn's, guys, sometimes when you all mention stuff like this, I'll try to. David Hunt, shadow figures of the Jinn. Maybe so. I mean, I'm working on that kind of pet theory about the younger dryads. When that happened, maybe there was a break off of something like that was with us back then, and then it went into hiding afterwards. But Clint Snyder talked about New Leaf Night Vision. I think those are those night vision kind of like goggles almost. If I remember correctly. I'm sure. I'm looking that up right now. New Leaf Night Vision. That is not what I was thinking of. I'm not familiar with that, Glenn.
New Leaf? I've never even heard of that.
I've never heard of that before, but it looks interesting, actually. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. I'm going to look at that when we get off
back
the
to the orb conversation. What the Flock says, most Native American traditions teach the children not to go into the woods at night. Also, there's a practical element to that, obviously, but there's a lot of stories that Native tribes have that keep the children close at hand. And obviously there's a practical application to that so that they don't wander off. They aren't, eaten by a wild animal or anything like that. One of my favorite Native American tales is that of Spearfinger, that she would cut out and eat the livers of children. And so that's a story that that the Cherokee would tell the children, that if they wandered too far from the village, that they would be eaten, or their livers would be eaten by Spearfinger. So, there's a lot of stories across cultures that keep people from wandering too far from home.
Well, here's the deal though. A lot of those, to me, folklore, regardless of the culture that it originated from, is one of two paths. Well, one of three paths, maybe. Teach you like a moral lesson, all right, to instill some sort of like morality, that moral compass to follow. Cautionary stuff for children, just like you mentioned, to just stereotypical boogeyman tales to make sure that the kids don't put themselves at danger, okay, to kind of instill a fear in them. And then there's other stories that are not stories. They were a roadmap of what they were dealing with then. You know what I'm saying? And it gets perverted over time, like Grimm's fairy tales were pretty freaking grim. They were dark, you know what I'm saying? And then they get like Disney-fied, and now they're just, fun little tales for kids, you know what I'm saying?
Isn't that what's happening to cryptids at this point?
That's what's happening with cryptids at this point, because a lot of these folklore tales, like if you look at the Fae are terrifying when you look at it from like a traditional European standpoint. They're basically aliens from another dimension that come here and steal kids. They kill you on a whim. They're capricious. They don't make a lot of sense. They have an alien way of thinking. Things that they find are humorous might be terrifying to humans. There's no real beneficial ones. There are just some that maybe aren't actively seeking to harm you, but they will at a moment's notice if they find it amusing, And now it's like Tinkerbell, But a lot of these stories, a lot of these Native American traditions, a lot of these older European traditions, Asian traditions, African traditions, South American, all of this were set up to give people a roadmap of the things that they were dealing with and how to deal with them. And so I think that those are markedly different than you have like a traditional, just like little boogeyman story. And then you have story about cannibal giants, you know what I'm saying, that pretty much parallel stories from other groups thousands of miles away that have never had any contact with that, you know what I'm saying? But yet they're describing the same thing, giving the same warning.
And more than just an oral tradition.
Exactly.
There is
It's an oral warning at that point.
It's an oral
so,
warning,
yeah.
but there's also supporting evidence that those things actually existed.
Yeah, exactly. So Kayas is talking about the two symbols on the door you recorded. I'm assuming you mean from the Devil's Night thing that we did. We're part of a sigil, and the relevant witch's compass direction. We can't talk about that symbol and the stuff that's associated with it anymore because we are just now starting to get off the YouTube.
We're just now getting out of the sin bin.
So, but we almost need to kind of do like we were talking about doing just a podcast and not put it on YouTube discussing a lot of that anymore because of the nature of it. They really kind of came down on us pretty hard on that. So
eventually we might have to have something that's more private, like a Patreon or something, to where we could discuss the more spicy topics and not get slapped for them. Like some sort of thing where we could do that and have like free conversation, open conversation about these topics where we're not going to get, penalized by the powers that be. Kaiju Ninja 1985 says, what are your thoughts on the idea of a hollow earth? Do you think it could exist, and what could be the source of these cryptids?
Okay, so let's get crazy with it. Hollow earth doesn't necessarily mean that there's
two holes on either end of
two holes on either end, and then it's literally just 20 miles of like whatever, and then there's like a sun inside and everything like that. To me, the hollow earth could be just the fact that there are, and again, this is they say about, just random statistics, but somebody had mentioned that they were like, that less than 1% of the world's caves had been discovered and less than 1% of that percent had been mapped. That may be completely far off. That might be approximately true. I don't know. I would hazard to say that we have barely scratched the surface as far as like underground spaces, caves, caverns, everything like that. Barton Nunnally, I don't know if he's still in here or not. He's got a great line, but he was just like, if the ground was transparent, you would be shocked at what you would see beneath you. And he said that to me. I can't remember if he said that to me directly or if he said that in a podcast one night, but that has always stuck with me because I'm going, yeah, that's true. If the ground was transparent, we would be horrified by probably what we see moving around down there. Even if the source of some of these things is more interdimensional, I fully believe that there's subterranean stuff going on here that's down there. Is it the source of these cryptids? One of the things that we kind of hinted at a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about this is that, again, that Younger Dryads event, that earth-shaking cataclysm, did it chase some things underground that stayed underground and then just got progressively weirder and weirder and weirder while mankind kind of rebuilt? You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I definitely think that regardless of the source of some of these things are subterranean. So, and come out every once in a while, do their thing, and then go back down. Look at Kentucky and how weird Kentucky is and the cave system there. Look at West Virginia with the caves and all the old mines and everything that are up there. So yeah, I definitely believe that there's an element, a subterranean element to at least some of this stuff. So one of the things that I always thought the most interesting about the whole Hellier thing that we watched that drove us crazy is somebody's telling them that there's a cave right down the road from them where they're doing occult rictuals and they're, doing all this stuff, and they didn't go check it out.
No, they were like,
they didn't even scout it out. You know what I'm saying? And I was just going, go to the cave, go to the caves. I think that there's occult activity, not even like entities, creatures, monsters, whatever you want to call them, but I think that there's occult human activity that takes place in this stuff. And then of course you get into the UFO environment, you got DUMBs, deep underground military bases, but I think that there's subterranean is a huge portion of a lot of this. So
Dewey said Joe and Jesse, I've got to head to bed, and if you work comes very early, give Morticia a pat on the head for me.
And off she goes.
Oh God.
I know.
What the Flock says, the Hollywood version of fairies is ridiculous.
And it's done it for kids. I mean, and that's fine. But again, if you look at some of the other stuff, it's these are like pretty frightening things, man. You know, they're pretty frightening. And the parallels between like the Fae and like aliens, I mean, it's undeniable. Even so much so that, you know, a lot of alien encounters, they'll talk about they have smaller drones, and then they have the larger, like taller, thinner alien that seems to be in charge. Well, that's a fairy queen equivalent. You know, you've got the smaller, kind of like more like commonplace fairy, then you have the queen or the king or whatever that looks like a very tall, willowy human almost. You know what I'm saying? Where the rest of them are like short and squat and all that. So
Scott Yeager says, I always seem to join these live chats just in time for Joe to say something that convinces me I need a bigger flashlight.
Club, my friend. So yeah.
You know, I think Joe convinces himself he needs a bigger flashlight
Joe
every other day.
He's probably in the process of convincing himself right now that he needs a bigger flashlight. So Coyote says there's no way to sustain colonies of these things in many of the areas they're frequently encountered. And that's one of the main things that make the flesh and blood hypothesis ridiculous. I started out completely. First off, I thought all the rest of this stuff was ridiculous. I believed in Sasquatch. It was an undiscovered ape. And then I get more and more and more into it. And then I'm like, all right, it's a relic hominid. And then I get more and more and more into it. And I'm just going, there's literally no way that this is a undiscovered flesh and blood creature with a breeding population out in the woods. It's just I would think that it's more likely that all of us are crazy and we're misinterpreting all this stuff and we've got it all wrong and we've just deluded ourselves. That's more possible than a monkey running around the woods.
Yeah.
It's at this point, you have got to, for that one thing that you mentioned right there. How about this? How about if it's a relic hominid and it's intelligent, you would see variations in personality, right? Like you see with humans. You even see variations in personality with other like primates, like monkeys, gorillas, and all that. You got playful ones, you've got aggressive ones. You've got some that are probably smarter, some that are probably more stupid. So where is if these are just a relic hominid, where's the adventurous one with very poor judgment that gets
caught out,
that gets
somewhere.
caught? Okay. Basically, you're saying that these are primates, but then they exhibit like almost like a hive mind. They're all in lockstep. They don't vary from it. Occasionally you get little glimpses, but again, where's that stupid one? Okay. Where's that one of below average intelligence that's sloppy and likes to take risks and just doesn't pay attention? And why is he not in a cage? Because that would happen if they were flesh and blood. When I allow myself to get drawn in debates with people that are just hardcore flesh and blood, and then I'm just, well, you know, the science won't take us seriously because people like you woo, you're into the woo. And I'm just going, scientists don't take you seriously because you want science to take you seriously, then take the science seriously and realize that what you're proposing is scientifically impossible. If you go, hey, this is something that exists beyond the realms of our recognized science, that's believable. You know what I'm saying? We know that there's things out there that exist that we don't understand yet. We understand monkeys, you know what I'm saying? We understand apes, you know. And
science also doesn't take you seriously because you're an insurance salesman dressed like Jane Goodall.
Yeah, or you're decked up like you're going to take a crack at Fallujah, you know what I'm saying? You know.
Oh God.
Yeah, but it's
although you could say that that's kind of how I dress sometimes.
Yeah, you do have that kind of, you know, backwoods militia thing rocking now. Yeah. But yeah, exactly. That's the thing, is that if they're just monkeys, then why don't they follow all the stuff with other monkeys? If they're flesh and blood, why don't they follow the same rules that everything else flesh and blood on this planet seem to follow?
Yeah.
You start off with it's just a monkey. Well, then what about this whole self-illuminating eyes things? Well, there's bioluminescence. Yeah, and like fish and like invertebrates, there's no mammals that really have. And even if it did have bioluminescence, why the eyes? The eyes are photoreceptors. They're going to be photoemitters too. How is that how does that make sense biologically from like an evolutionary standpoint? Why are people getting sick? And infrasound, don't even get me started on infrasound. That's obviously not possible. You have a common monkey that you then start giving these like little passes to that makes it unlike any other creature on the planet, well, then it's no longer a common monkey.
And at that point, you're abandoning science, aren't you?
That's my thing, is that you want to get taken seriously by science, take the science seriously. Know what, yes, some of this stuff operates outside the realm of our understanding of science, but there are things that we do understand, and you have to accept that, and you understand it yourself. Understand how sound waves work. Understand how low frequency sound waves work. We understand that. They're doing more studies on that right now at all. And if there's something out there that can use sound in a manner that you don't see anywhere else in nature and that we can't even replicate with technology, well, that's not a normal flesh and blood animal anymore, is it? That's something that behaves in a manner unlike anything else on the planet. Means it probably ain't from the planet, so.
I have a good follow-up to this.
Excuse me.
Before you croak out on me. Daniel Garcia says, it's good to keep an open mind, but there are any cryptids that you truly find hard to believe or wrap your mind around their possible existence? I think when it comes to that, I think about these weird, and I call them like Pokemon cryptids because there's so many.
What's your favorite cryptid? That sort of stuff. Yeah.
It's like some of them are just, they're even in the wild, paranormal, weird alternate reality that we kind of live in,
Goblin universe,
the goblin universe that we exist in. Some of these are they still strike me as weird.
The squonk.
That's the one I was thinking about specifically. They strike me as weird, like Pokemon type characters, where they have like these strange motivations that, like the squonk, he cries because he's so ugly. And I'm like, what is this?
Here's the deal. That's because that's a separation that's gotten, again, Barton hates the term cryptids because technically a cryptid is an undiscovered animal. Okay. And we use it just because that's in kind of the common like vernacular right now as far as this stuff goes. But what's happened is that people have taken like pre-Civil War tall tale type stuff, like Paul Bunyan type stuff. Okay. Yeah. Stuff like humorous stories that like the Hodag and like the Hide Behind and hoop snakes, stuff like that, stuff that were just made up basically as jokes. People will now kind of lump in with like the cryptid type stuff.
Yeah.
I used to think that the idea of Dogman was ridiculous. It was just ridiculous. And it was born out of like creepypasta stuff. And then now I'll be honest with you. To me personally, Dogman is more real than Sasquatch is. I've never got what could have been a Sasquatch on a thermal.
That's true. But there has been credible evidence that you can look at that other people have gotten.
Exactly. But to me personally, because I was there and I know it's real and it's not faked. And I know I was there when it happened. So to me, that's more real. So I try not to cast any, but I mean, yeah, the stuff like that has gotten lumped in with quote unquote cryptids, which are just tall tale type things.
I think things like Dogman, Sasquatch, fairies, aliens, that kind of stuff. I think all of that is plausible because of the physicality of it.
Mm-hmm.
When you're talking about something that is like these things that are so out of the stretch of like reality for me. I mean, of course, you could say that anything from another dimension can look anywhere that it wants, but I think I'm more prone to believe in something that has a more, I hate to say it, but inhumanoid or humanoid characteristics to it, something that actually could exist in this realm.
Yeah, like I said, to me, I mean, the only thing I find unlikely, but here's the deal. Even the flesh and blood hypothesis for this stuff, we can't prove or disprove anything. So to me, it seems impossible, but I can't say it is impossible.
Yeah.
Because again, there may come a day when one of these things is captured or killed or done whatever, and they're open about it and they tell us what's going on. And everybody that's involved with this stuff that spends all of their free time reading about it and researching, thinking about it, we all look at each other and go, damn, I didn't see that coming. That's it might be something that's just so alien that we can't even conceive it.
Yeah.
But to me, that's it. I mean,
I agree with that. Yeah. And I'm just being kind of biased there with that assertion, but it'll be our luck that we're like out in the woods and like, stuff's popping off. It's getting crazy. And all of a sudden we just stumble across a freaking squonk. That'd be the day.
Well, that's like, you see, here's the deal. You don't see like woo people when I'm using woo people that are like on the far end of that like just paranormal Sasquatch type spectrum, you don't see them getting upset with like the flesh and blood types that much. They
Not
just do their
generally,
own
no.
thing. It's the flesh and blood types that are just like, you guys are ruining it. Science is never going to take us seriously.
They get big mad.
Yeah, they get extremely like upset. And I'm like, it's going to kill those dudes one of these days. That if like that little grandmother that talks about how she feeds them pancakes and that they mind speak to her and she knows their names and all that, what if she's the one that actually proves it all? You know what I'm saying? Regardless of whether that's what's happening or not, she just comes out with like 4K footage. Here's some DNA evidence. You know what I'm saying? You know, when they were eating my pancakes, one of them took a dump, you know, and here
and
it
in
is.
other news,
and yeah,
apers are jumping off bridges.
Exactly.
And
they'd lose their minds.
So Kaiju Ninja 1985 asked this before. Joe, can you please describe what you saw in the woods?
I've
that
never
got
really
you
talked
started
about
in
that.
this?
I was actually when I was in Boy Scouts as a kid. For those of you that were Boy Scouts, if you guys remember the Order of the Arrow type thing you have to go through.
This sounds occult.
Yeah, you know, get down. But you have to sleep outside under the stars by yourself. They separate everybody out. And I saw something from behind a tree, and I don't think it was a costume because it was too realistic. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to describe what it looked like because, oh yeah, I will. All right. So, it peeked out from behind a tree. It's got giant eyes and big flat teeth. And it had a pretty sinister kind of grin that seemed like it stretched too far back. It was black and it was hairy. I don't know if you want to approximate that with a Sasquatch or not. I didn't think Sasquatch or Bigfoot when I saw it. I don't know what it was. The mouth moved, the lips moved. So I don't think it was a rubber mask. And it made sure that I saw it, and it moved out very slowly, and it almost looked like an exaggerated tiptoe. And I'm sitting there I'm laying there trying not to wet myself because nobody sleeps when that happens. You can't move from where they put you at. And I was on top of a rock, so I'm fully awake. And I laid there for the rest of the night. I never told anybody because I figured people would laugh at me, or B, what if it was the chance that they were pranking me? And guess what? I can't rule that out. That was also like decades ago. And you know how your memory over time will evolve a little bit. But I can remember at the time going, that was way too realistic. I can remember it like it was just yesterday. People will go, oh, you had a Sasquatch sighting. And I'm like, I don't think so, man. I don't know what it was. You know, I just remember the oversized flat teeth, you know, and that is just in some Sasquatch descriptions. They have more human-like teeth, but just oversized. The bone study that we were reading about when they found elk bones that had been gnawed upon talked about humans shaped molars that were just huge.
Yeah.
Denisovans, you know, we talked about how they found Denisovan teeth.
They were huge.
Yeah. And flat. And they didn't really talk about that back then, but that's what I saw. I don't know what it was. I don't know what it was. And some people will go, I swear I can't rule out that it's a really elaborate hoax. And if they were doing it to everybody that was there, like, because,
somebody else would have mentioned
some people would have been talking about it the next day.
Yeah.
And I doubt that not everybody was like so worried about getting mocked like I was, So yeah, that's what it was. I don't know what it was. So I don't know. So, but that always stayed in the back of my mind. And then I kind of got me interested in all this stuff, weird stuff in the woods. So
E-Rev, thank you for that $5.
Well, thank you, sir. So
he said we can call him E-Rev now instead of going through all of that.
Call E-Rev?
Yeah.
Oh, good deal. So
William Nighthawk says Siren Head is ridiculous. Yeah. That's one of those internet cryptids.
Yeah, but then you get into the like Slender Man, that was like the big thing. There's like kids killing other kids because of Slender Man.
But if you believe in something like a tulpa, like
yeah,
something
like
can be
enough
created.
intention and will, or is there or are you like honing in on something that exists and the collective unconscious is just not bringing it to life, but you're imagining things that are there? Kind of like people think that H.P. Lovecraft with this whole great old ones. I mean, we talked about Aleister Crowley and Jack Parsons. They're trying to summon what they call great old ones in, and then people are going, well, Aleister Crowley knows it's real, and then H.P. Lovecraft maybe just tapped into it, and that's where his stories came from.
Well, something like Slender Man, though, that makes me think of something like a contact with a demon. That's like a demonic entity, because you have those kids who are sacrificing their friends to Slender Man. I mean, that's Luciferian, right?
Yeah. Johnson Farm said, has anyone ever recorded any supposed Dogman howls, verbal noises on audio? I think the problem you run into is how does that differ from like coyotes or dogs? I don't know if we ever released that audio footage when we were on the hilltop that night. We heard those just out of nowhere, that real demonic growling and then fighting and all that. It sounded like there were like, if they were coyotes, they should have been right up on us. We should have seen them. We didn't see anything. We heard this weird growling and canine noises. When we were out this past weekend, we were either getting ringed by some pretty big coyotes or there was something else there. And that's fairly close to where we saw that weird kind of white wolf looking thing that was really skinny and sickly and like moving low to the ground. And that was the first thing that came to my head is this might be coyotes, big coyotes like coy dogs, or maybe it's that thing we saw again. I don't know. We got out. So I'm sure that's on the audio. But again, with something like that, I mean, with like a Sasquatch, like some of the Sasquatch calls you've heard, like Sierra sounds don't sound like anything else you've ever heard.
No.
And it's weird because I heard some audio footage. Remember that audio footage I played for you for a couple of days ago? Guy going, oh, it came to visit me at my tent, and we're listening to it, and we're going, that's a dude.
That's a dude.
If
like,
it's not
trying to
if
imitate.
it's not a guy, then you're never going to know because it sounds exactly what you would expect. There's nothing that doesn't sound like a guy there.
Yeah. It has that vocal quality of a
some of
human
those
being.
Sasquatch cries don't sound like anything else. But I guess Dogman, you've got other canine creatures running around the woods, and some of them are sizable. You know, so
we were out. We were out at the area where we saw the UFO portal thing, and we heard what sounded like. I mean, we were like, I guess that could be coyotes. You know, we were like, we don't know what it is, but we were like, it could be coyotes. It could be something else. But then it was coming from two different directions.
Could have gotten ringed in though. But I mean, so all right, how about this? That audio that we caught around that tree, that weird tree. We moved off. We left the recorder going. Yeah. It was something with thumbs because it picked it up.
Yeah. And you can hear the physical contact with the recorder that occurs in that audio.
Something, it lifted up into the wind and then it was slammed back down.
Yeah.
And those growls had those weren't bear growls. They weren't hog. They weren't coyote. I don't know what they could have been.
Okay. Well,
that guy is telling us in those emails that they're not Sasquatch up there. There's big mean things. So what's the big mean thing?
Yeah, but you're also dealing with that other vocalization. What communicates?
Clicking.
Yeah, what communicates through clicks?
Somebody said, "Oh, it was a tree blowing in the wind, cracking," and I'm going, "No, not at all."
In a pattern, in a communicative
pattern, and a very percussive, sharp. Like that's not even a tap.
And also, it sounded like after the recorder got picked up, it sounds like there's some sort of interaction between the two entities.
Well, my thing is that
it's conversational.
So let's follow this through. If what obviously that dude knows where we're at. That's true. He said that that if we keep going up there, there's lights with people in them that scream, and we haven't experienced that yet.
Yeah.
Okay? If we ever experience that, because
we've not experienced the screaming light.
If I see a screaming light, we're probably not going back up.
We've experienced
our swan song for that area.
Yeah, but we've experienced lights and we've experienced the screaming.
But he says
not together.
He says that he doesn't believe that there's Sasquatch. He doesn't believe they exist. He knows they're definitely not up there. There's big mean things. Is that like a Dogman type thing? I mean, so maybe we have Dogman.
I don't know.
Or maybe it's something. I don't know. It's something else. But here's the deal. That growling doesn't sound like a person replicating it. We're trying to, not like me going,
I agree with that.
It's not, it doesn't have that kind of like a person trying to mimic or imitate a growl. Like that other audio we heard where we both just went, that's a guy.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Brian Wigful, Aussie Baza, says, hey guys, great to see you again. Happy New Year. What are the most memorable moments of your research in 2022, good and bad?
LBL,
our second trip of LBL that we did this year was the second time we went to the LBL. We went originally in 2021, and then we went back in the winter of 2022. That was probably one of the turning points for our research, B, this channel.
Well, because the variety and the frequency of the stuff we saw going on.
My belief in these phenomenon.
And the fact that it's all going on in proximity to each other. Yes. And it's all, if it's not related to one another somehow, then it's drawn independently to the same area at the same time for some reason we don't understand.
Yeah.
But LBL was definitely a big one. And some of the stuff that's happened recently, the sounds and the lights were big, you know, and to be honest with you, the LBL and then the sounds and the growls and the lights that we recently captured, those are the big ones for me right now.
Yeah.
that seeing that weird wolf thing that night, something that really weirds me out that nobody really talks about are those eyes we caught behind you that night that I moved off.
Yeah.
And that weird flash, we just watched the flash footage again. There's that flash of light that seems like it comes out of the ground behind her while she's got the camera up in front of her. It's not the IR reflecting off of anything. There's nothing.
But it's like it's a wide illuminated.
It's so wide.
Yeah.
It's not a flashlight. It's not a lantern. It's not anything. It looks like it covers a few dozen feet and it just gets white for just a couple of seconds and then it just goes back down and it looks like it's coming. It looks like the entire section of ground lit up.
Yeah, because so we're going back through a bunch of older videos because we're talking about this particular area and we're working on this video with the portal UFO light thing we saw. So we're going back through some videos that we've done in that particular area, and we did when the hunter becomes the hunted. That is, I think it's a 30-minute video, and it's like full of just stuff, crazy stuff. That's the one where I have those eyes that come up behind me. That's the one where you leave me in the circle where the occult rituals were taking place. And there's that weird light that comes up behind me. That's also the one where we see the lights up at our camp. And that's also the one where I step in all of that weird, like, scat. Yeah.
That wasn't there a couple of seconds before. No. And we didn't hear or see anything lay it, but it's still steaming. And then it's laid all... We didn't include it in there because she stepped in like 3 different piles, and it's all along our path.
A couple of them,
big ones.
Yeah, we included like a couple of them. They weren't there
a couple minutes before, and it's all along our path, and it's big and it's sizable. And it's fresh. So
but that's like a 30-minute video, and I'm like, oh my god! So, and that's the one where we saw the wolf thing. Yeah, that was so weird. That is so weird. In terms of like bad, I don't think we've had a bad. And when it comes to like Hellbent Holler and our investigations and us looking into this stuff, I don't think we've had anything bad this year, other than we had a couple of attachments that followed us home a couple of times.
And even that wasn't like, it was weird and we were weirded out to a certain extent, but the moving on itself stuff, for some reason that should have terrified me.
Yeah.
But instead I'm just like, this is crazy. I can't believe I just saw it. E-Rev asks, what do you guys think about the guy on Jeff Nad's channel that's supposed to be a government agent involved in Dogman? That's a hard one to follow. Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. Victor, whatever it is. All right, let me phrase it like this. Okay, so you're a government. My big thing is always like some of this stuff, the phenomenon is irrational. It doesn't follow rational rules. And again, but we try to approach it as rationally as possible, if that makes sense. Okay. We don't know what some of this activity is or what the cause of it is, but we can document some of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And we can collect some data of it, knowing that we're not getting the full picture. Okay. We are obviously interested in sharing it with you all. Okay. So we started this YouTube channel. We do these. We want people to kind of see it and understand it. We understand that some people are just going to look at us and say we're crazy and that's fake or we're misinterpreting stuff, and that's fine. That's you're not convincing anybody of anything. But we wanted to just kind of share it with people, that there are some people that are interested in this stuff that don't have the ability to get out and look into it for themselves. And we wanted to kind of we got an email early on, we released a couple of videos, and somebody got in touch with us saying that they were unable physically to get out into the woods. They had a handicap that they were unable to do that. And they said they felt they were right along with us. We were like, that's really cool. We want to do this to kind of like take people out that are unable to do it for themselves and maybe inspire in our own small way other people to do it. Okay. So we want to.
I hope that guy's still watching our videos, because that was really what inspired us to
do a lot of this stuff. You know? So and if you are still watching them, reach back out to us, because that was like very inspirational, oddly enough. Yeah. But we want to share it. So now there are certain things we can't share because we've been asked by people who've shared it with us to remain confidential, and we don't want to like betray somebody's confidence just for a few YouTube clips. That just ain't happening. You know what I'm saying? It's just not happening. There's certain things we can't reveal at the time because it might jeopardize something that we've got going on to release later on. You know what I'm saying? And hopefully if we're able to continue it without outside interference, we'll have even better stuff to share with people, or a better understanding ourselves of what's happening there. So you're a government agent that has been employed to fight these things. No one else, there's obviously other people doing it, I'm assuming, because I don't know a lot about the story and I could have some of this wrong. I'm aware of the existence of these stories, but I don't know the meat and potatoes.
The
of
ins
them.
and outs of them, yeah.
But I'm assuming you're not the only person doing it. Okay. You don't exist in a vacuum like that. Nobody else has ever come out and talked about it, which is fine. You know, there might just be one person doing it, but obviously they want to keep it, quiet. So why are they letting him talk? You know, I mean, and anytime from what I understand, that guy has never shown himself. He's never been on live and anything like that. Let's use Martin Groves. Martin Groves has a very impactful story that I'm certain there's a certain portion of the population that just goes, that's crazy. It didn't happen. Martin shows his face. It's his name. This is the police department I worked for. The guy's an open book, man, you know? So I guess my point is that if you want people to believe your story, but you're going to behave in a mysterious way that makes you open to doubt, then you can't be upset if people doubt you, you know? There's no doubt that Martin Groves is a police officer from where he claims to be and that he had the experiences that he had. Verifiable. It's just that people who are wanting people to believe their story, but then won't provide key elements that would make their story believable. Does that make sense?
Right.
So, people may not believe us when we talk about that sound we heard up there when the camera batteries were dead. People may not believe Doug Hijack when he says that I just didn't have an SD card.
But at this point, we've provided enough evidence
of other stuff.
to other
so
things.
If you want to disbelieve that particular thing, knock yourself out. But what about the stuff that we provided?
And you can say, you know, well, I don't owe you anything. I said, well, why are you coming forward?
Yeah,
if you don't
you know, you obviously want some attention, so why not just do what you know? So I don't know. I mean, to me, like you, that's a hard one to swallow, man. I don't know. And guess what? He might be right. He might be telling the truth. I don't want to say anybody's fake, but at the same token, I'm just going, well, to me, it's a good story. There's not anything to really back the story up. So
yeah.
To me, the most impactful people who are witnesses, experiencers, or whatever, are people who don't come with all the answers packed in and then can't tell you how they got those answers or show you how they got those answers. Most impactful witnesses and experiencers or whatever to me are people that just go, sounds crazy. This is what happened to me. I don't know what it was. I don't know why it happened. I don't know anything else, but that's my story. And that's all I got, you know?
Yeah.
What is it? This is what it looked like. I don't know. Well, where did it go to? I don't know, you know? Well, why did you see it? Nobody else did. I don't know. I know it sounds crazy, you know? So to me, that's the difference between somebody who comes out than just going that they've been contacted by the Galactic Council who's chosen them from all of the humans to carry the message. And, you know, so.
Somebody asked just quickly, was that Mount Rainey that you were at for Order of the Arrow? No. So. Thank you for the $5, Stingray 1975. I saw a full-grown Black Panther in October 2009, Virginia Beach campground, 19 yards away, and I had to witness beautiful animal. There are Black Panthers everywhere, and the local DNRs are going to deny it. And weird, I'm not sure why. I guess it might impact business in a way for a lot of these places, but we've seen Black Panthers down here. We're in the Carolinas, and we've seen them here. People have seen them all through Virginia, West Virginia. Yeah. That is something that definitely pops up. Oh, here we go. Not Today Saban says, another question. Now that you've contacted that other plane, have you thought about immersion sensory deprivation tanks to maybe listen to your subconscious? Yes, I'm going to do that. I have, I've already set that up. So I will be doing that. And I'll probably be trying to do that more often after I do this first one. We'll see how it goes. I'm also doing like a Lucia Light session, so we'll see how that goes too, because it's supposed to also put you on a different like level of consciousness. I'm more open to experimenting with stuff like that than Joe is.
Joe's a lot of depth as far as like to explore. So
Joe's not really interested in like, I want to learn how to do CE5. Joe is like, nope. So but that's more like my arena. But yes, I'm going to start doing sensory deprivation tanks. So I've already kind of set that up to do that, and I will report back on that if I've not like gone into the mouth of madness and lost my mind. So Quartz Grinder says, Jesse and Joe, have you ever heard of any strangeness, encrypted stories of the Nahanni Valley area of Alaska? Bigfoot, amphibian.
Yeah, the Valley of the Headless Men and all that. Yeah, I'm familiar with that. I've heard about all the strangeness. That's apparently one of those really weird spots. Yeah, that would be on the short bucket list to actually go to eventually. But yeah, I've heard about all the weirdness about it up there. So, and Alaska is such a weird place anyway. You know, so many missing people, and you've got to wonder how much of that is because of like paranormal or supernatural type causes, and then how much of it's just because of the climate that is up there, and you know how bad it is, and the regular wildlife that's up there. So
Berto says the audio sounded like cicadas, but there was definitely some growls and clicks.
there's cicadas going on there.
So we're aware of the cicadas.
But
so
when we tried to filter out the cicadas, we didn't want to release anything filtered.
Yeah.
Matter of
or
fact,
altered in any way.
Kaiju Ninja that's on here did some filtering and sent it to me, and it sounds great. But we didn't want to alter it in any way. And then people would go, "Oh, that audio is altered." So yeah, there's cicadas going on. And then other people were like, "Well, if it was Bigfoot, the cicadas would stop." And I'd go, "Would they?" I mean, you know, they stop at one point when what's going on, but the cicadas are up in the distance around up near the tree line.
Well, I speak cicada, and I know that
you speak it very fluently. Yes, so. I'm just reading that right as Jay Meyer says, Jesse hasn't done any animal sounds in the last few seconds.
Let's see.
Yeah, David Hunt, I'm way behind in this. God, I'm really far behind.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to catch up myself.
David, I'll check that on my Instagram. I'll have to. I saw part of what you'd sent. See, Benelia Wilcox was in here in a bit.
Barton says, if there's one thing I can't tolerate in my research areas, it's screaming lights.
And again, when we heard that, I just went screaming lights. Like, what is? I mean, do they make a sound like a UFO makes? Or are they like actual? Because we sent this dude like a lot of emails. If it's a guy,
yeah. But it was
trying to get clarification on that because that sounded so weird, and it just didn't. I don't know. I mean, and again, we've heard even what we heard up there was more wailing. Now the witnesses we spoke to when we first got tuned into that place said they heard screams in the woods.
Yeah.
The spirits in the woods and like the weird screams and all that. But I don't think we've heard like screams up there. So yeah.
Dolores Edwards, thank you for the super sticker.
Thank
you very much. Thank you, D.
Yeah, I need to pop ahead. So
yeah,
David, I saw you'd mentioned that your things weren't getting. I'm super behind in the chat right now, buddy. We are not trying to ignore you in the slightest. So I'm really behind in the chat.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
You want to go to the bottom?
If you want me to, I'm almost to the bottom.
Okay, gotcha. So,
but yeah. I was going to say here, the Quartz Grinder Photography says the first time I ever heard of Bigfoot in Texas was when a friend hit it with a buckshot, left blood spatter on the trees and ground as it ran off. As far as I can say, they are flesh and blood.
And I think some of them are flesh and blood. Definitely. I just don't think they're flesh and blood that are here permanently. I mean, look at the.
And he has a follow-up too. There it says the game wardens and sheriffs took a blood sample, never got back to my friends on the identification of the blood of species.
I wonder if that ever got tested, or they just went, "Hey, these people sound crazy." They just pitched it, or if they sent it off and got tested, and it just disappeared into the, into the ether there. The wolf that everybody hears about. With Skinwalker Ranch that latched onto that lamb in front of the family, and they shot it, and it didn't respond, but it blew flesh off when they shot it with a rifle. I think that these things are definitely. Joe from Michigan shot a Dogman and killed it. You know what I'm saying? So I think these things are. Some of them are flesh and blood.
I think they walk the line between.
Well, I think that they're flesh and blood. Some of them at least are flesh and blood. They're just not here above ground in the woods all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
Nighthawk High Strangeness, William Nighthawk says, watch out for those elementals. They'll follow you around and home. I don't know. I think that sometimes we're dealing with something that is almost an elemental or something that is, especially in the area that we've been going to in North Georgia where we saw that light, we've gotten all this stuff and all this crazy stuff has happened. I don't think it's just one thing that we're dealing with. I think we're dealing with a multitude of things, but for some reason, and I can't quite explain it, call it a hunch, call it a feeling, call it, in my intuition, something saying this, it feels like we're dealing with these other things, but it feels like we're dealing with something ancient and larger and older there.
It feels ancient and angry and not good. And yeah.
Yeah, Boy Scout story, Joe. It's an awesome Boy Scout story, Joe.
It sounds goofy. I'm just telling you, it made a huge impression on me. And I don't know. I don't know what to say. I didn't get up and look for tracks the next day. I got up and dusted myself off. I was glad the sun had come up, and then we went and did our projects we had today, and I just didn't talk about it, so.
Back to the Victor thing. Encrypted response says, Victor, if you're hearing this, then send me one picture of just your scars, and I will take everything back.
And again, it might be true, but at the same token, if you approach it and you keep yourself so mysterious, then you have to realize that some people are going to think that I mean, obviously you want your story to be heard. It seems like you would do everything that you possibly could to make people believe your story that you're putting out there that you want people to believe.
Paul M is complimenting your tactfulness here. You answered that very tactfully. I would have just said he's a nut.
Yeah.
Joe is always very tactful
Very
with how he
tactful.
responds to these things. I'm a little more reactionary when it comes to stuff, so I let Joe be the diplomat.
Have you thought about making trips to places such as the Everglades, bayous of Louisiana, Lake of the Ozarks, or Falk, Arkansas? I did like Bigfoot research in Virginia, then down into Georgia. And then when we lived in Louisiana, I went out a few times, and I know that, you have like Honey Island Swamp Monster, you have like all sorts of stuff. And like the real deep bayou, you don't go into. If you're not from the bayou out there, you don't go into it. You know what I'm saying? You just don't. The areas like Honey Island and all that, I just never saw anything. I mean, I went years with nothing at all.
We have a friend that hunts Honey Islands pretty much every week. He hunts and he's never mentioned anything about anything.
There's stuff down there. I just never saw any of it down there. We are thinking about going to check out Skateboard Swamp, though.
Yeah.
Where the lizard man of Skateboard Swamp was seen.
I think we kind of have to. That's something we kind of have to.
I got a weird, I know I've talked about this in the past, and the dude was just like, I don't care, you can talk about it. But we are big into knives, obviously. So I buy and sell used knives sometimes. Maybe I get a knife I don't really mess around with anymore. I'll sell it online, or maybe something that's out of production that somebody's got it for sale. I'll buy it. But I was selling this guy a knife, and when I was getting his shipping address, he was down near like Skateboard Swamp. And I just asked him, and he goes, oh yeah, my uncle was part of the hoax of Skateboard Swamp. They hoaxed it. And I'm like, what? No, because you're kind of disappointed, want it to be real, man. But he's like, oh no, they hoaxed it. Da, 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 da. And I was like, oh, well, that's a bummer. Anything else weird down there? Nope, nothing weird at all. And I'm like, all right, that's cool. And then we chatted a bit more. And then he tells me, he goes, all right, well, they didn't hoax it. We tell people they hoaxed it because we were, now it's a touristy type thing. I think they've got a festival they do every year.
They've got a festival they do, and they have a restaurant that is Lizard Man themed.
But people that have property down there don't want like
Lizard Man tourists
or amateur monster hunters running around their property. So he goes, that was the story, that it was real, but they now tell people that they fake it. And he was telling me that because he didn't want me running around down there. So it's been kind of in our minds, and I want to get down to kind of check it out. So
I do have a clarification here for Jules. Jules mentioned we all have our encounters, almost all with no evidence, but our own eyes. I think this is referring to the Victor conversation.
And it might very well be right. It's just that somebody who tells me I saw this, it happened so quick, I couldn't get my camera out, because that's happened to us. And we go out prepared with cameras ready to go, and stuff happens too quickly for us to get. It's people that go, I don't know what it was. But if you're having repeated, almost daily contact with like these things for like hours at a time or days at a time, he might be right. I don't know. I just hear it and I go, the story sounds fantastic. And with that much experience, you would think that there'd be something else other than just a disembodied voice coming out, like Cryptid Response said, hi, my name is Victor. Here's my face. Here's my, my information, my paycheck stubs when I, kind of Bob Lazar it, what I'm saying, show what evidence you have, realizing that it won't be everything, but something. It's just that I think that the people that don't want their face seen or anything like that, never talk about their stories. Or they come completely forward and share everything, trying to get people to understand what they dealt with.
Yeah.
That's just a weird kind of gray area, but it might be right. I don't know. So
James Barker says, NAF check.
Oh, I had to take mine off because it was bumping into mine.
NAF check.
We are not carrying folders this week. We are carrying Winkler belt knives.
I have a Blue Ridge Hunter.
I have a belt knife.
And we bought mine at
Blade Show
from Daniel Winkler himself. And then I got Joe his as a gift. So
we are big Winkler fans.
Yeah, Daniel Winkler.
Winkler Tomahawk is on my want to get one day, but ain't gonna happen right now, but still.
$1.99 from Dead End Yard Hunt for the cicada
Cicada
impression.
impression.
All right, guys. All right. All right, now you all can be happy. What the Flock says, screaming lights, bottle rockets.
A random guy, he's answering something later on. He goes, sounds like the Tall Whites. And you know what's weird is that, so, all right, so somebody in the previous comment was, sometimes you're just left with a story. When I originally heard that Tall White story, I was kind of dismissive of it. I just didn't, to me, it just sounded a little, there's some elements in there that are kind of hard to swallow, even if you're into this stuff. But again, as I've been like really kind of getting into the MacTony stuff and the the crypto terrestrial type stuff, I'm kind of learning more about the Tall White phenomenon that, and I can't remember the guy's name that experienced all that on the military base, the guy that was a meteorologist for the Army. But I'm kind of doing a deeper dive into the Tall Whites now and kind of getting a better grip on the story. So, all right.
Okay. Yeah, somebody asked where they can hear Martin's story. He has a book called The Beast Between the Rivers.
Here, I'll put it.
Joe's gonna stick that in the chat, and you can get that on Amazon. That's Martin's book. It's his detailed account of what occurred to him in the land between the lakes.
And I'll be honest with you, we talk about Martin all the time because his story was so impactful. And it was weird when Seth Breedlove was doing his documentary. We will talk to Seth Breedlove occasionally just on like social media and stuff like that. You know, we'll shoot him messages on Instagram, and he has gotten in touch with us with questions about like equipment one time. And it's a big link, but there we go. When I watched, he sent us like a screener, like link to watch American Werewolves for it came out. And he's like, let me know what you think. And I'm watching it. And then it got to Martin Grove's part. And I messaged Seth, I was going, this is insane. And he's like, yeah, that was like the standout witness. Like, I mean, I'm going, yeah, this is nuts. This account is one of the best accounts ever. So I'd heard about the account and I was impressed about it before we met Martin and became friends with Martin Groves. But yeah, it's his account is I was struck by his account, and then we were you know, lucky enough to become friends with him. And when we saw him talk about it on the American Werewolves documentary, and then we read his book, and then we saw him talk about it at the Dogman conference in Paris, Tennessee. And it's a whole nother level of intensity when you're hearing him speak about it, and there's no editing, and it's just him speaking about it, and you watch it come alive for him again, right?
Yeah.
And then so the conference wraps up, so we're heading into the LBL, and there's like a full moon, this giant like blood red moon in the sky. I think it was like a day off for me and exactly full, and we're both just like quiet, like going in. And my last text, I was texting with my friend who's on here with Cryptid Response, and his last text I got before we got into the LBL, my signal was, he was like, if you hear like whistling, which Martin talks about, get out. And then I just lose signal. I can't even respond to him. And we're going in, and we get out of the car, and we're both like, I'm like actually like scared right now.
Yeah.
We've been doing this for a while because Martin's story was just so fresh in like our minds. We were very on edge that night. You know what I'm saying? So extremely on edge. And it was all because of Martin's story, just like right in the forefront of our minds.
Yeah, we put out a short video for that. It was Dogman nest found in the land between the lakes. If you guys haven't seen that one yet, we put a video out after we left the Dogman conference in Paris, Tennessee. We went up to the land between the lakes that night after that. So that was pretty interesting. That is the longest link ever, Joseph.
It's the one I got. But at least you should be able to click on it. So
E-Rev just put the book in the cart. Very good, man. Good.
This is a good one. Kaiju Ninja, Joe and Jesse, have you seen and encountered any possible military government operations in the areas you investigate? We have never turned a corner and come into a clearing with a bunch of Humvees set up and tents and a lot of official activity. We have ran across a couple people before who gave us the impression that they were not just some like guys that ran up on us that time that were in absolute peak physical condition to the point where we were out in a spot in Georgia, which has got a pretty ominous name. And a couple of guys were obviously looking for something. And then they saw us and just proceeded to run up the side of this mountain with full packs on. And I'm just going, who are these guys like training for in peak physical condition? And they were very odd and had some very weird questions. And they just acted like a couple of casual hikers that just, hey, how are you guys doing? Why did you guys just sprint a quarter of a mile up the side of this mountain and like, you know, no time flight? So
hello, fellow hikers.
Hello, fellow hikers. Yeah. Just a couple of normal hikers out here in the woods. That was very weird to us. Very weird.
Mm-hmm. Do you mind if I go and take a
go ahead and use the facilities.
Run. Been going for 2.5 hours almost.
Yeah, we're gonna wrap it up. Jay Myers, at least Joe is not talking about Gorilla P tonight. Night's not over yet.
The night is young.
The night is not over yet, my friend.
That's not the lights over.
Yeah.
It's chaos here in the studio.
Yeah. So, Joe, speaking of the younger dries, did you happen to catch those footprints in white sands? Yeah, 23,000 years. So much for Clovis First. Clovis First has been something that everybody is just so attached onto, and I'm not going to nerd out as far as like that goes. But yeah, Clovis First is something that the only reason why people are still clinging to that is because there are a lot of people in positions of academic authority who have built their academic careers on that. So yeah. Finding the trackway, and again, I'm insanely behind, guys, but science deals with the natural world. The approach needed is one of intelligence gathering. That is something that you've heard repeatedly, and I'm sure you've heard the exact same thing with the Skinwalker. Hunt the Skinwalkers of the Pentagon, how they were going, hey, a lot of this operates outside of our understanding of science and our ability to measure it. So we need to almost treat it like you said, like we're doing intelligence gathering on a potential adversary, as opposed to, not that necessarily that it has adversarial intentions, but we need to treat it as an intelligence gathering operation, as opposed to trying to just quantify it. You know what I'm saying? Like that's going to give us an answer. Like just run a few tests on it and that'll tell us what it is. So.
I've returned.
This is interesting.
What?
This is good. Paul M. This is from an evolutionary standpoint, a vegetarian Bigfoot should have a pot belly like gorillas, and females wouldn't have the cone head like the Patterson footage claims. Yeah, now they say that Bigfoot's omnivorous, and obviously it's been seen taking down deer, taking down hogs, especially. That's a big thing, and where we're at, there's some stories from near here that talks about them hunting. But yeah, there's the sagittal crest would not necessarily be biologically like appropriate. So all right.
What did I miss?
Nothing. We're just me babbling. So
every day of my life.
Every day of your life. So
all right, guys, make sure you hit that like button. We've had a lot of people in the chat today. I don't know if we've had a lot of new people in the chat too.
Yeah, we have. So thank you all guys for joining us.
So if you're new, thank you so much for coming and joining us. That's pretty awesome. Hope you're having a good time here on our Hellbender chat.
The chat is especially busy tonight. So Nighthawk had a thing saying Glimmerman communicate with clicking. I think he's talking about the clicking that we heard in that. Yeah, that clicking and then that weird hum. Somebody was going, hey, that's a sound artifact from the recorder. No, it's not. I mean, we use those recorders constantly, and the recorder test, the function test works on it perfectly. There was no moisture on it. There was nothing else. It wasn't even that cold. It wasn't that warm. It was pretty much ideal. It was in a sheltered spot until whatever it was picked it up and lifted it up into the wind there. But it is the clicking, the growling was, and here's the deal. You could even go, well, that was just a weird sounding bear. All right, well, how did it pick it up? Picked it up in its mouth. Well, then why was there no saliva or marks on the recorder? Well, there just wasn't. That could maybe explain the growling away, even though that growling, where it sounds like it's speaking, does not sound like a bear. How do you explain those clicks and that weird humming? You know, when you
Yeah,
take it all
there's just
together
too many
in total,
weird things with that
yeah.
audio that it just it
Because I'm gonna be honest with you, out of everything we've gotten so far, and just everybody always wants to talk about that thermal image we got, that's the best evidence of something that we've ever gotten.
oh, that audio?
Yeah, in
For
my mind,
sure.
I'll stand by that.
For sure.
I second guess a lot of stuff, but I ain't second guessing none of that for once. So
Thank you, What the Flock. This is for the Whirly Bird and Gorilla Whiz
the
Fund.
Whizzy Bird.
The Whizzy Bird. We could disperse the
Sean Blevins was on
the
here. I don't know if he's still
Gorillapede.
on or not. So
we could disperse the Gorillapede from the helicopter.
so Court Griner, awesome Boy Scout story. Yeah, like I said, it's weird. It's not. And I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't really go into when it peaked around the tree. It was exposing. It certainly wasn't trying to stay hidden. It's almost the movements and the actions were exaggerated, so much so that I do second guess myself sometimes, going, were they pranking us? And they did it to everybody out there. And I don't know how many dozens of people were out there with us, and nobody talked about it. And generally, you know how it is when older kids are playing pranks on younger kids. They want validation that you were freaked out.
Yeah.
You guys see anything scary last night? No. Huh? Because we lost a few out of the last group that we had here. You shouldn't see, and that was just not. It just doesn't make sense. I wasn't asleep, but I guess you can't rule that out to a certain extent. I was up on that damn rock all night long, but yeah, it's just weird, man. It's just very weird. It's kind of It's kind of a goofy story the way it acted, which makes me, I don't know. It was goofy.
Paul M was asking about those two guys that we encountered. Were you close to Blood Mountain? There's a ranger camp up there. Actually, second phase of ranger school would explain the soldiers.
They weren't at.
It was not near Blood Mountain.
They was not near Blood Mountain, and they were not out on training on this. This was very
out of place.
Very out of place. You know what I'm saying? So very out of place. So.
But I know for sure that it was not near Blood Mountain.
Take two wheels. Just went to Go Stop. What EMF you recommend? I wouldn't get it from Go Stop, to be honest with you. I will email you when I get off of here with a couple of suggestions and different price ranges, depending on what you want to drop into it.
Yeah.
Don't get that. What's it called? The Mel meter or whatever. That's like very simplistic. No, I'll send you a link to what I have personal experience with. There might be better ones out there. I just don't know about them. So, I'm the equipment person with this. So I do a lot of like research on this stuff, because I can't do a lot of the stuff that Jess does. So I have to do that. So I do a lot of research on this stuff, and the stuff that I picked out had really good reputations and has worked for us well.
I do all the fitness videos, and he does
all the fitness videos. So I
think people are going to love the fitness videos. Whirly bird.
Well, hold on. This is pretty interesting. Not today, Saban. Nothing goofy about it. Many of us saw shit at Rainy Mountain on Order the Arrow trips and camping trips. It's up in the woods in Clayton. Yeah, I mean, we're familiar with like that area. It's interesting that people saw it on. Yeah, the Order the Arrow. They take you out, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, and you got a sleeping bag and you got your stuff, and then the leader puts you where you're going to be at. It's usually like older scouts. And you have to stay in that spot, and they purposely try to pick the most uncomfortable spots to put you at, and then you're there. I mean, generally you don't have anybody within yards of you. You can't see anybody at night, and nobody sleeps. Everybody's just up all night long. I mean, I'm sure somebody slept. I didn't get any sleep with it, but it's interesting.
Well, especially if you're encountering,
Well, that was like halfway through the night, you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, that wasn't like immediate. But it, yeah, if you want to share any of those with me, especially if you saw something yourself personally, I'd love to hear about it. Our email address is on that little ticker at the bottom. So,
I was going to talk about something that I wanted to maybe start doing for the channel. Do you want to mention that? The help mentor thing?
Yeah. Go ahead.
So I had this idea, and you guys let me know if you like it or not. So I had this idea that I was thinking about doing for the channel. I know that a lot of people, they love our investigations, and we do that, of course. I was thinking about adding another little thing that we do. I don't know if I do it on a regular basis or what, but something I was going to call Hellbender Tales, where you guys could email us maybe your personal encounters or a story, and then I would read them and we would discuss them. So, but it wouldn't be on the live chat thing. I would make videos out of it. So if you guys wanted to participate in that and tell me your encounters or your stories, you can email those to helvetholler@gmail.com.
Because we get some crazy
because we get some
stuff.
we get some wild
Stories.
encounters,
and
that
some
are-
people don't want it shared or talked about.
yeah.
Some people are like, yeah, do it, just don't mention my name. Other people are on the chat referencing stuff that they've shared with us.
Yeah,
they're
so if
obviously
you
open
wanted to send me like an encounter that you've had, and I'll read it, and we'll discuss it.
something beyond like a campfire tale. Well,
Yeah.
I knew this fella years ago, and
Yeah.
he went,
Like
something we could
personal
go, hey, we
encounters.
just got this. It's first person information. This
Because
person
our
experienced
inbox is full of all of these
Really cool stuff.
cool, interesting encounters. And I would like to start sharing some of those. So if you guys would be interested in that, I think we're going to start doing that.
Hey, this will be a follow-up here. Grace W says that Jody Cook says he tracked Victor down, and I think he wouldn't talk, but his neighbors spoke to Jody and the NADP team, and the neighbors were all moving because this Victor dude scared them. Grace, did he scare them because they thought he was crazy, or they scared him because of like activity that was going on around there that I thought he was part of? Like, what was frightening about him? I'm interested to see what how that story goes there. Because I'll be honest with you, I'd never heard anything about that. So
I 100% believe that Jody Cook would be like, I'm going to track this guy down.
Jody Cook would track him down, man. Yeah,
I 100% believe that Jody Cook would be like, I'm tracking this guy down, and he will. Like Jody Cook would actually
track him down.
I actually believe that Jody Cook would track him down and put like a microphone in his face.
Yeah, no, that does not. That's
probably the most believable thing about the Victor
the whole
story.
thing. Yeah, so I'd like to hear more about it. So
Jody would totally do that, and I would watch that. That's compelling TV.
Yeah, they're talking about Martin Groves' story. Martin's probably going to be the first guest we actually have ever on here, because again, we are going to have him on here, and just because there's some stuff that I want to we approach it different, because it's a crazy story, and you get so wrapped up in especially the emotion of it.
Yeah.
It's wild, man. You know what I'm saying? And especially when you like meet Martin and you like get to know about him, then you're like, this dude don't rattle easily, man. And he's still shaken up to this day about it. But I want to get him on there because there's some like weird little small elements in there that I don't think a lot of people have focused on, because they're kind of overwhelmed by the enormity of the whole story and like how impactful it is. But we want to have him on here just to kind of like, that'd be the first person I'd want to interview. You know what I'm saying? Like to actually like interview somebody like that. So
Glenn Snyder says, I'm from Union, South Carolina. I guess it's Whitmire. Forest keeps coming up of weird stuff. Ever heard of it? Have not. I have
not heard of that at all.
I wrote it down here. That's something I'm going to look into because we could possibly go to somewhere like that and check it out.
Whitmire Forest, South Carolina. I'm not even pulling.
Look at Union. Just look at Union.
Union, South Carolina.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that at all, to be honest with you.
He's looking at it. Yeah, that shouldn't be too far.
Where is that? Is that down near the coast?
I don't know. But we'll check that out if it's somewhere we can get to. No,
it's not that far from us at all.
No, we can get there.
Okay.
Yeah. No.
Is that forest? Because I see the Francis Marion and Sumter National Forests are near there. Is that Whitmire Forest part of that?
Yeah, Glenn, let us know where that is. Approximately near Union, where that is, and we will put that on our investigation list, because that's something we can do.
Mm-hmm.
If you're having weird stuff happen, you can always,
that's right in our backyard, and it's so much easier to do this with places that
if you don't want to talk about it here, you can always email us at the email address below. It's helvetholler@gmail.com, and we'll go investigate it for you. We'll be happy to. We'd love to. Be happy to.
Martin was talking about the whistles were absolutely hair raising and the metal sounds, and that's what I want to kind of, because again, all right, so let's talk about this like again. So Martin comes out and he gives his story, and he just goes, "This is what happened to me." Okay. He himself says in that one interview, when he sees the Dogman creatures and he sees the Sasquatch, he goes, "I don't know if what was going on with him." Do you know what I'm saying? But this is just what I saw. I mean, Martin's a lifelong cop. He's going to report it as if he's having to report, to testify in a court. He's just going to give you what he knows. He's not going to really make a lot of he's not going to really make a lot of leaps of faith or do anything like that. He's just going to report the facts to you. And then Martin, you'll have to remind me, but I think I was the first person who went, those metallic sounds are heard in the Tom Mezek case, there's a lot of stuff in Martin's thing that crops up in other stories, and it's just kind of overlooked, and you're going, hey, that's a common thread through some of this stuff, these metallic sounds.
Yeah.
It's a big one. So, but anyway, yeah, Martin will end up being our first guest here. So
Sean says, Joe, thank you again for the XL Recon 1. I can't express or even put into words you sending me that knife means to me. And Jesse, that is a great idea. So there you go.
Hey, thanks, Sean. So
Sean, you're awesome.
Sean's a friend that we made actually on was it the Cold Steel group on Facebook?
I think so.
One of the knife groups. And Sean has sent us knives. He'll be like, hey, check this out. So, we had an opportunity to get Sean a knife that he just had an opportunity to kind of return the favor, basically, a very small favor, because he's still sent us more than we've sent him. So, so good deal, buddy. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I hope that knife serves you well. So
Matt from Central Florida, Bigfoot's here. Hello, Matt. He said he's late. He's going to have to start over in the morning. We haven't gotten into anything too spicy here.
Yeah, it's been
good.
We have been very circumspect, and
everybody's behaved.
Yeah.
We've only mentioned Gorilla Piss twice, so that's good. And now the rest of the chat's going to be Gorilla Piss.
Mm-hmm.
Bigfoot Adventures says he thinks that's a great idea. He would share his story. Well, you can share your story at helmetholly@gmail.com.
Please let us know.
Make sure you let us know that we can use it for the video. I don't want to use somebody's story that they don't want shared.
And if you don't want your name mentioned, or if you don't want
any identifying information.
And guess what? If you don't want us to talk about it at all publicly, we won't talk about it at all publicly.
Yep.
There's a few things going on right now that we're getting constant updates on that we can't mention on here because the person just doesn't want it mentioned. You know what I'm saying? Not everybody's looking to get their story out there. Some people are just some people aren't even really looking for answers. Some people are just going, hey, it's obvious you guys are into this. Let me share some stuff with you that might match up with some other stuff that you saw, so.
James Barker mentioned that he's done customer service for years, and if he gets somebody from an interesting area, i.e. the Pacific Northwest, he'll say something like, oh, you were in Bigfoot country. Gotten some good stories that way.
People are talking about the clicks that we got. Yeah, and I'm gonna be honest with you, if we had just heard the growls, if you guys remember, if you watch that video in its entirety, and not the one where we just released the audio, but we put the recorder down. We do a drop recorder like we always do. And I covered it up with a leaf, and that leaf was gone. But guess what? That leaf is just a leaf. That could have been a natural occurrence. Yeah. So if that had just happened, we would have gone, the leaf's gone, and then just left it at that. But we get back and we're getting the recorder up and we hear that, I can't even replicate it, that fast, not even a clicking.
I don't even know.
It's like a quick percussive. I can't describe it.
I couldn't even imitate it.
It's not knocking, it's not rapping, we're calling it clicking, but it's percussive and it's deeper than that, followed by a weird growl.
Yeah.
If it had just been the growl, we would have thought, and we knew something was up because of that rhythmic, that very fast, whatever. And then we get back and we listen to the audio and we're like, holy crap. We're hearing the humming, the weird clicking, the conversational type stuff that goes on.
And then the
sounds
physical,
like Joe and Jesse. And I'm going, that's just so weird.
And then the physical contact with the recorder.
But then when we're looking and we caught that eye shine that we didn't see while we were there, but it's plain as day on the video.
Yeah, we rarely mention that, but that's there too. And I stopped the video and kind of zoom in on it
a little bit. It's just weird. But again, if it had just been the growling, I would be open to mundane explanations for it, even though it's kind of out of ordinary for normal animal behavior. But when you add in that weird humming and then the clicking and kind of the conversational thing back and forth, I have no earthly idea. And it quite honestly weirded us out a bit. And we were like, all right, we've got to kind of evaluate how we're approaching stuff up there. My exact words were after listening to all that is we're dealing with forces outside of our understanding of it. Literally when I went into this thinking I knew what was going on up there, I have no clue what's happening now. So
Not today. Saban had an interesting insight here, talking about your experience for your Order of the Arrows ceremony. Joe, ever consider that you had your first sighting after a mock Native American ceremony with drums and chants?
Oh yeah, yes, I have thought of that. Because again, ritual is like prescribed actions and intent. So, you know, it's not necessarily because you're doing something that somebody did a couple hundred years ago in the exact same way. It's focusing efforts and intent and intentions. Yeah. And that's what that was. You add in like young kids and like the emotion element there. Cause I mean, you know, we were outdoors a lot, but this is still like a weird thing to go through. You know
and what sparks up?
Everybody's like,
what sparks up, you know, poltergeist activity, but young people who are pubescent or prepubescent who are going through like a stressful period of time. So you are young people who are around that age who are going through this stressful period of time too. A lot of elements there.
Have y'all ever encountered Bigfoot Dogman types with blue eye shine? We've seen blue lights, and the eye shine we were just talking about on that video with the audio that we caught, that looks bluish white. But we've seen bluish lights before, but whether those were like eye shine or just like orbs or whatever, I don't know. But those lights that look like two eyes are bluish white. So
Cryptid response, talking about the audio that we captured, I suppose. I am ashamed to confess that I spent hours listening to random audio clicks from every animal I could think of, trying to find something even remotely close. And you didn't find anything. We couldn't find any. We could not find anything comparable.
And then that weird humming, and then but like I said, even the growls don't sound like, you know, they had a guttural quality that almost sounded like a wild boar, like a feral hog, but not quite. And then when it sounds conversational, it's definitely not it.
Yeah.
And they definitely didn't. I mean, a boar's like what, like 3 feet at the shoulder at most, and that's a big one. I mean, whatever it was, picked this thing up like high in order for it to catch the wind. It was that's why I put it there, because it was protected from any wind that might come up. And there was no wind that night anyway. At least when we left out, there might have been like an occasional breezes. This got lifted up high, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. And you hear it when it's coming back down. You hear it got lifted up slowly, and then when it's coming back down, you hear the
impact of it sitting on the ground too, coming back to the ground.
Yeah.
David Hunt has an interesting thing here. I believe Sasquatch are from Earth, and we are the aliens to the planet. We are not totally designed to survive without clothes and shelter from the sun and cold.
Gravity gives us a lot of back problems, difficulties in childbirth, the fact that we get sunburnt. I've heard that exact.
It is we that are the aliens.
Yes. So.
Edward Kung Fu Mashburn says, have you ever been to Uwharrie National Forest in North Carolina? A friend said he had seen a Bigfoot when he was camping there, a little bit after he was back from the Vietnam War.
We talk about Uwharrie because Uwharrie's not that far from us, and I know that that's like a Bigfoot hunter's hotspot.
And it's not a large place.
And it's covered in people, and they have 4-wheelers there now, and horseback riding and all this, it's a very densely populated with people area. Now, that's not to preclude it from, people have Sasquatch sightings in like their backyards, and
I think most of the sightings are like roadside sightings.
Yeah. But you run into the fact that there's so many people there looking for this. I know that there's been like Bigfoot hunters howling at each other unaware. Do you know what I'm saying? This group here howling, and this group over here is howling too.
In that particular era, that was not what was going on.
No, not at all.
After the Vietnam
That's
War.
The thing, is that nowadays we don't go there because we don't trust any audio that we would catch not to be another person out there doing the exact same thing. But there's a reason why it's considered a hotspot, because there was a lot of activity. So that's the thing. Where did it go?
Yeah.
I mean, before, when it was like sparsely visited and there was hardly anybody in those woods, that's understandable if it's like a breeding population there or whatever. But now there's people there everywhere, you know? And so it's obviously there's not like a group of a few dozen or whatever there that are breeding to keep a viable gene pool going, and now they're staying hidden unless they're underground, unless they're, you know, going somewhere else.
It's just unfortunate we can't investigate it because of the possibility of audio contamination is just too high at a location like that.
We heard some booms. If you remember, we have that Break Booms and Howls video. There's no way that was contamination at all. There's nobody up there to do it. There's no mines going on. People are going, oh, they're dynamiting mines. Nothing like that up there at all. There's no rational explanation for that. However, there was another area that we went to in the past that we heard pops, and we thought that we found out there was a campground fairly nearby.
Yeah.
And we were like, those were probably fireworks.
Yeah.
We don't
So
know
that's-
if there was anybody there, but that's not within the realm. So guess what? We don't go to that area anymore because we can't trust anything we hear.
Yeah,
you
even
know?
if we got like the best piece of audio evidence that we had ever gotten, it's still the possibility that it could be contaminated by other people.
Mhm.
So that it's null and void at that point because there
Mhm.
is that possibility that it's not what we would think it is. So
Mhm.
we have to just adjust.
Henry White goes, yeah, we're familiar with bear popping. It's not bear popping. If you listen to that video and then you listen to a bear pop in its jaw, it's not anything similar at all. Just the percussiveness of it. And again, like I mentioned before, one of our research areas is next to the Pisgah National Forest, like the Pisgah Bear Sanctuary. We've heard bears pop their jaws before. We've heard bears growl before and snuffle. We've been coming around a thing and heard what we thought was a mama bear with a couple of cubs, and we hightailed it back the other direction.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I think that was one of the most scared I've ever
That
been.
yeah. And I
in
was
the
just like, we
woods.
need to like get out of here like now, just go. But it's not a bear popping its jaw. I don't know what it is, but it's not a bear popping.
Erev says, have y'all heard of people that have had near-death experiences having a higher rate of encounters?
Yes.
Yes.
That is one of the things that Mac Tony's, when I'm reading the stuff about the crypto terrestrials, he talks about people that have, if you have had a previous encounter or a near-death experience, when I say previous encounter, a previous like encounter with like UFOs or cryptids or whatever, you are more likely to have them later. And the question in my mind is that mean because you are programmed to be open to that? Programmed to maybe notice it more? Are you drawing it in?
Are you marked?
Are you marked? Yeah, exactly. So
you're gonna love this one, Joseph. Deer in Headlights says, "Why no SLS camera?"
You're
in
exactly
your gear?
right. Why is there no SLS camera in our gear? So that's something that I really, really want badly. I don't know how well it would work in the woods though, compared to in like a home. With
I don't know
walls.
either. So
Our friend Dooster's got one that I'll have to see if he.
I've only seen them used in
Indoors, yeah.
indoors and like haunted house situations, not in woods situations. So I think when we meet up with Dewey coming up in the woods, maybe we should try out the SLS camera. That'd be a perfect time for us to try that out, right? And test that theory.
James Barker, yeah, you remember the whole thing from Order of the Arrow. So what the flock's got a good, maybe it was breath and not wind. It sounded, you know what? I want to say it sounded like the wind. I think it was the wind. Just because it didn't have a breathing thing. It was more of a constant.
Now they're gonna have you like.
It sounds like the wind, but I'm gonna go give it another listen just because I don't think it was the wind, but I'm gonna give it another listen.
You know, they're gonna have
it was breathing.
They're gonna have me doing the cicada sounds and you doing like the deep breathing.
So
this is Hellbent Holler ASMR.
Not today. Saban's got a good thing going. I got deep into theoretical physics, astrophysics, quantum mechanics, etc. Got asked where my curiosity came from. The honest answer has always been because I saw a werewolf. I can't remember the lady's name, but the person who's really into kind of like the whole mysterious world, quantum mechanics type thing, where they talk about stuff that they previously thought was physically impossible that just happens on a subatomic level just constantly. You know what I'm saying? It's basically we're watching magic occur on a subatomic level. And she talks about all this stuff. And then somebody in one of the interviews, I can't remember her name to save my life, asks her, well, why can't this happen like on above a subatomic level? Well, that's just because it can't, because that's crazy. And I'm going, you just admitted that it's possible. Why are you didn't think that was possible before. And now you're just saying that it's not happening because it's impossible, because in your mind it's impossible. Yeah, because when you start getting onto a quantum entanglement might possibly, explain like some of the mind speak that's going on. I mean, like all sorts of, there's a lot going on out there, man. So
it gets a little to be. What the flock says, I saw a bright light in the background over Jesse's shoulder on one video. As I watched more, it turned out to be the moon. Yes.
Yeah.
So when I do the video review, sometimes I'll see something, I'm like, oh, what is that? And then I like go over it and I'm like, okay, no, that's a moon. That's a star. That's a,
We'll have to generally, yeah, sometimes people will contact us and go, I saw this light above you. And I'll be like, that's completely rational. Sorry.
Yeah.
A lot of times we don't preface our videos with that though, because we have had people get in touch with us before going, did you notice this? You know,
There was, I will say, there was one light thing that I don't think we mentioned anything about it.
the light
in
and the little, the hole through the board and that little station, that little
that
house
was,
at the LBL at Station 16.
Yes, it's a Werewolf Experiments episode 3, part 3. While we're over near where Station 16 is, we're looking in one of those sheds, and it's got open front on the shed, and it's, you know, it's wooden. There's a little knot hole off to the right there, and it's just a knot hole in the thing, and I've got the camera here, and I'm holding it, and then all of a sudden there's this light that comes right through that knot hole.
You see the eye move up into it, reflect the light, and then move off, and we saw it. We didn't see it, and somebody pointed it out to us.
Somebody pointed it out to us.
Elijah Henderson got in touch with us too, like the next day, and he goes, "Hey, are you aware of this?" And I go, "Dude, I just heard about it."
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I said it's weird, man. But yeah, sometimes people will point out stuff all the time that I just go, we reviewed this like a couple of times and we did not see it. That's why an extra set of eyes is always pretty good on there. So.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. People talking about the diabolical theory. All right, guys, we're coming up on the end here. If anybody's got anything you want to speak now or forever hold your peace. A lot of great stuff in the.
Yeah, obviously.
That's one thing that I wanted to bring up is that we don't really have a lot of time to watch a lot of other content out there. We're watching some of it just to kind of go, what are other people like dealing with right now? But we don't really have a lot of time to watch it just because it's a time thing. There's a lot of great stuff that's going on out there.
I'm laughing because what the flock.
Oh, good Lord, man. So anyway, but
the ex-wife always comes up. I'm glad we checked.
I lost my train of thought.
We checked all the. Well, okay.
The flock drove my.
We don't watch a lot of.
But what was
other videos and stuff like that.
But we'll occasionally check it out, and like I watch the chat, and I'm going, where's like all of the like insightful like ideas and comments and like all of the it's just everybody in there talking about like just just nothing, you know. And I'm just going like, we get into our chat and people are like throwing stuff. We're taking notes. I mean, we take notes like from stuff that people mentioned to us.
Good night, Frank.
So
see, the Hellbenders are a class all their own. Like Hellbenders are the top tier audience of any YouTube channel.
You know what guys are though? Because I mean, I think about this stuff all the time. She does too. And again, I come from more like a different perspective than she does, but we pretty got a lot of bases covered here between the two of us. And then like every week somebody brings up something that I just go, I never thought of that before, man. Wow. You know, it takes a village.
It takes a village.
So,
God. So yeah, if you guys have anything else you want to bring up,
and if you guys want to share any of your stories, because I'd like to. We talked about doing that because we'd like to see some of this stuff kind of get out there. If people are willing to share.
Yeah, because we have an inbox full of really cool stories and we just kind of want to get those out there. And I think that it would be fun to share those. And if you guys want to share your stories, you can always email us hellbentholler@gmail.com. Make sure you let us know. We can share it for Hellbender Tales. I like that name. If you don't like that name, okay. But I'm kind of going with that name right now. If I come up with something else, I'll go from there.
John had said this. He goes, Hellbent Dogman is running around in my backyard.
Right now?
Do you mean like right now? Or is this something, are you having like ongoing activity? He says he's in Tennessee.
We'll dispatch Dewey.
John, if you are legit having stuff going on your property right now, reach out to us, please, man. I mean, reach out to us like tonight. I'll check my email as soon as I get off here and see if I have anything from you. Just say, hey, this is John from Tennessee. Let us know if that's if that's something that you're experiencing right now.
Let us know. Yep, you can get it. You know how to get in touch with
Martin, buddy. Chad Wolf Schlegel Stein and Hausenbergerdorf.
There you go. You did good.
How about a live caller show? Just let people call in and chat for a few. That might not be a bad idea too.
We could do that.
Not necessarily call in, but we could share links, I guess, off of this StreamYard to do it. So.
Yeah, we could do that.
So anyway, all right, guys, we're gonna wrap it. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. So as always, you can get in touch with us. You can email us at hellbentholler@gmail.com. You can find me on Instagram at hellbentjessie. And we have our snail mail down there. I check the post office box once a week, and we found some interesting stuff in there. Thank you. Try not to send me any pee. I would appreciate.
Well, no, you know what? Send that pee. Send that pee.
All right, if I have a liquid come in, you're opening it.
I'll take care of it.
He will be opening it. So we've received several bottles of wild animal pee at this point, which is great. I appreciate the wild animal pee. Joe will be opening those packages from henceforth. But yeah, make sure you guys like this video, share, subscribe. Make sure you're subscribed still. And we're gonna keep popping out stuff, and it's going to be a great 2023. We appreciate you guys joining us and being a part of the Hellbender family. And it's going to be a great week. It's going to be a great month. It's going to be a great year. And y'all be careful out there. Joe, check your Instagram.
I will. So, hey, actually, David, if email me too at hellbentholler@gmail.com, just in case that Instagram doesn't work out.
Yeah, Joe has a lot of trouble with his Instagram. That's why he doesn't really do Instagram, because he just doesn't have a lot of luck with it. So, and I know I have a couple messages in my inbox too. I'll get to those as well.
Don't threaten me with a good time with the flock. So, anyway.
All right, guys.
Thank you.
You are the best. And we appreciate you. Y'all are the best. Y'all are awesome. And thank you very much. Good night, everybody.
Good night.